Evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's monthly city council meeting. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Ferry,
Present.
Councilman Acosta,
Present.
Councilman Figueroa,
Present.
Councilwoman Fonseca, Councilman Lozada,
Present.
Councilwoman Rivera, Councilman Solano.
Present.
Your quorum is present.
Thank you. Will all please rise for the pledge of allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Public comment is present. We have 3 people signed up, Mr. President. We have Ms. Edna Pullen.
Please?
Did you sign up for public comment?
Yes,
Then you're up.
I'm up. Been up since 6 this morning. First thing I have a comment on. Today I was out riding somewhere and I had people in my car who don't come from the city. And one of the things that they noticed was the street sweeper was out today, of all days with the rain. Secondly, when the street sweeper goes out, there used to be a time when we would plan certain streets that you would go on, and people used to have to get their cars off the street. So you could do a good job on cleaning the streets. Now you can see the street sweeper goes in like this. And today of all days, I don't know how good a sweeping he's doing. I think on a rainy day like today, I don't think there's any use for the street sweeper to be out there. And I think there should be a better plan on how the streets are swept, so that they do get swept, because we do have a lot of cars on the road. My street generally is full of cars. But if they would notify the neighbors and they used to put signs up, posting, so people knew that there was going to be a sweet street going by certain hours of the day, so that they could get to the curves and they could really do a good job. Bob knows that. It's been done in the past and very effectively. I think that was one of the things that concerned me today. The other thing is I would like to know more about property that probably is going to be taken along the Blackstone River, which property and which property may not be listed on the resolution. So if we get to that, someone could come up and let us know what's going on there. Because there's some property down there, if you take property along the bend, and I didn't see that on there, I mean, you really have to take houses. So, I'm just interested in that piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Lorraine Savard.
I have 2 now. Oh, my name is Lorraine Savard, 76 Emmett Street, Central Falls. I want to make a comment about the street sweeper on my street, Emmett Street. I don't know who lives on Emmett Street who can call the street sweeper to come to Emmett Street 3 times in maybe a week and a half. All right? So, to add to Colin's comment. That's one. Another thing that I have to say is it would be a nice idea to have 2 public comments, beginning and end. I know we can get windy, or is it windy, or wordy, and someone called me negative the other day, and I'm offended by it. So, public comment at the beginning to have little things to say, but then you people are the city council and you know what's on the agenda. I just got it. Someone told me 48 hours. I have a life. as my mayor told me the other day, I should be, what is it, raking my leaves in my yard. Okay, so that's my second comment. My third comment is, I just got wind of the controversy over the plaque for veterans on Central at the library. I don't know much about it. The other day I was told that if you chip it, and it's easy to chip because it's Italian marble, is that what you said?
Absolutely.
Yes. Now,
That's something, Lorraine, that's going to be.
oh, wait,
Lorraine, let me
wait,
finish.
this is,
Let me finish, please. That is correct, that's Italian model. There's pros and cons regarding that. We've been through this for 3 years. There's pros and cons that will be discussed. I've already had some discussion with a couple of people. But yes, Italian model could crack.
yes, but you can have a company that is, and I'm not sure I have the correct term, bonded, where they're going to say, if it chips, then we give you another one. So,
I don't want to get into it, but are you willing to be the chairman of moving that? Will you put your name on a legal document that if it chips or breaks?
me?
And, yeah.
The company I hire would do that, correct?
And
I don't know.
there's
I'm
no
not on
company
council.
going to be hired, as far as I know. The city has no plans to move that. It can be moved if you form a committee. I understand the library's interested in moving it.
Yes.
I don't know why, but if that's the case, then the library would be the responsible party to move it, and if something happens to it. So there's two sides to
That
every
plaque
story.
belongs to the
not a plaque.
library?
No, it doesn't. That plaque doesn't even belong, it's not a plaque, it's a monument.
Well, it's mine.
It's a monument.
Yes.
That plaque or monument belongs to the people that donated.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with the library, nothing to do with the city.
So it has to do with veterans. And I guess what I'm saying, well, you said there's going to be discussions. Are we
I'm
having a
willing,
discussion here?
well, the rumor is that someone's trying to stop that from being moved. Or someone's trying to do the right thing about moving it. That's the
We have a
difference.
beautiful park there. Could have been, we could find a place.
Do you know what the plaques, do you know what the monument's for?
For veterans.
Really? It's for veterans from Central Falls that gave their life, only Central Falls that died.
Yes.
Okay, a Veterans Park is for everyone. Did you hear the speeches yesterday? It's for everyone, living, dead, past, present, and those that are going to join the
There's a
service.
plaque there of 1966. That was
That
put
was
there.
donated, obviously, by the class of 1966.
I don't know, you know.
Lorraine, it's public comment, I don't want to get into it,
My
but when
father,
you
my
come here
uncle.
and say, someone said if it's Italian marble, yes it is, and it can crack.
You said, it's not someone, you said,
It can crack.
yes, but you hire a company that will insure it.
Who's hiring a company? The city has no interest at this point in moving it.
Oh, well, I think it should.
But if you want to form a
Okay.
committee and raise the funds to move it and put your name on a piece of paper that if something happens to that monument, you would
We
be
can put it in the
responsible.
budget.
But what is the,
Put it in the Veterans Park, because it's on
again,
a piece
okay,
of
Lorraine,
property.
you know what?
It's on a piece of property
You
that
just
we sell.
volunteered, would you be on a committee?
If I were on the council, I'd form a committee, and I would get the council to do that. People in Central Falls who died in the war, my brother is there. My brother is there.
Lorraine, I was the chairman, I know what it's there for. And no one stepped forward when that was built, nobody, nobody.
Well, and you wanted to
Two
stay
chairmen,
there.
me
You
and
don't
Tom
want to
Shanahan,
be there.
and 6 other people.
Well, we're having an argument here.
It's not an argument, I just wanted to clarify, yes, it's Italian marble, and yes, it could break.
And no, I do not want to form a committee.
You're on it. Thank you very much, Lorraine.
10 o'clock.
Good evening, my name is Dan Klotz. I reside at 111 Tremont Street here in the city of Central Falls. I'd like to thank the council and the council president, who's also my council, as it turns out. I appreciate your time, and I will not take a lot of it. I have a comment about one potential program, but I just, in reference to the last comment, I'd like to point out there are several locations of veterans memorials, and I don't think we can have too many memorials to veterans. We've got some here in this audience who gave possibly, could have given their lives, and we have many, as Bob said. So I think, I don't know, I'm not sure what that's about. What I'm here to talk about is a program I'd like to help implement, which is a bike sharing program. And what this is you have bicycles that are donated. I'm hoping to get them new from a manufacturing company based in Wisconsin called Trek, T-R-E-K. But I'm open, all of this is open to, the details have yet to be worked out. I'm hoping to work in concert with the city council. I've spoken to several city council members who seem to be enthusiastic about it. And I'm hoping to do best practices. This has been done in a number of cities, large and small, including New York City and Washington, D.C. But what they've encountered are some good things and some bad things. And what I'm hoping to do, obviously, is to provide a program that has as many of the good features and we can avoid any negative aspects. So, for example, just a couple quick examples. Portland, Oregon has a very successful program. I intend to do some further research. The University of Wisconsin at Madison had a program, and there were just things you wouldn't necessarily think of, but there were things that were believed to help in their effectiveness, such as the University of Wisconsin, they painted all their bikes like a bright neon orange, which served two purposes. One, it was easy to identify, and secondly, there was sort of a certain amount of shame. If somebody did attempt to steal them, their friends would say, hey, doesn't that belong to the city? Of course, you could repaint it, et cetera, et cetera. One of the issues is maintenance, but what I hope to do is to ask some of the local businesses here, perhaps businesses such as Lemeyer's and La Casona and El Paisa and a number of others that have frequently contribute and donate to the city to pay a modest amount, probably we'd have to decide, but somewhere in the neighborhood of $75 annually, which would be used for maintenance and upkeep. They're going to have flat tires, they're going to need brakes adjusted, et cetera, et cetera. So I simply wanted to introduce this idea. It's obviously something that would take a little bit of time, but it does seem feasible, and I think it would be helpful for the youth and others in our community. It also promotes a healthy lifestyle, because cycling and walking, there's a Grow Smart Rhode Island meeting this month, I believe, about just that topic, how to encourage people. And I think it's a positive thing. It will be or could be a positive thing for the city of Central Falls. And not every child can afford a bicycle, new or used, and this would allow them to utilize that in a safe manner. So that's it. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan. I think also if you could run that through recreation, Bob, he'd be glad to sit down with you. Madam Clerk, make a note there. Councilwoman Thompson.
Someone else signed up for the comment.
Thank you.
Next item is approval of records. We have three meeting minutes, September 18th, October 11th, and October 15th.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rujek.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that we table the minutes of September 18th. I was not in attendance at the other two meetings. I was not notified, so I have no qualm of the council acting on the others, but September 18th, I request that it be tabled and reviewed. There are errors, looking it over very quickly, and concerns that I have. One was the unanimous consent items. To have unanimous consent, it would have to be an agreement of all council members, and I do not recall ever granting a unanimous consent to items 7E, 6E, 7B, 7A, and described in order after item 3, which I have, at this point, no idea what they refer to or what they reference, Mr. Chairman. So I'll be very happy to discuss it with the city clerk, and we can bring it up at another meeting. I'll make a motion to table, Mr. Chairman.
I make a motion to table the date, September 18th?
Only September 18th, Mr. Chairman.
Only September 18th? We have a motion by Councilman Lazier. Is there a second? Hearing none, seeing none, motion dies. Any
Mr.
further
Chairman.
motion? Please, Mr. Lazier.
Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned, there are a variety of errors, and that's why I have brought this up to table. I object to unanimous consent items as I just referenced. I did not grant the unanimous consent for these items. That's one. Secondly, that there is a reference in here to Councilwoman Fonseca leaving the meeting at 9:15, and then there were various votes. I questioned the timing of those votes. Some of those votes, if she left the meeting, there was a 7-0 vote. A variety of other ones were 6-0 votes. And then, Mr. Chairman, we have 7 members on the council, we have a vote of 7-1.
Okay.
So.
Let me ask you this, do you want to make a motion to amend the minutes?
I make a
Here
motion to
tonight rather
table,
than
to
table.
review with the city clerk, because there are other errors in them, Mr. Chairman.
What you just said is fairly amendable,
Where's
Tom.
7-1?
What's that?
7-1, where do you see that?
7-1 is on the bottom of number
Yes.
3.
Can I make a point of clarification?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the only one that I would look into, the K, 7-1.
Well, that may be the only one you would look into.
No, what you're referencing to, we made a unanimous decision to move these items.
I didn't.
Those are agenda items.
Okay.
Like how Councilman Ferry will say, is it okay for us to move up X, Y, and Z?
I never agreed to a unanimous consent to that.
Like for
So I
the
object
community center report, we moved that up so that we wouldn't have people waiting in the audience to do that.
to move it up.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what the unanimous decision is for.
There was no vote on
This is unanimous
7A,
consent to move the
17.
agenda item, so that's why, when you see 9:15, that item was moved, it was towards the end of the agenda.
Yes. I,
So the only one I will
I
say for
concede
us
to
to
that, yes.
table is that 7-1 decision in K, that's the only thing in it.
I do disagree, as I mentioned in the past, Mr. Chairman, that when members of the council speak and question various things, those questions are not listed. They are excluded in our minutes, and I object to that. I've objected in the past, and I'll continue to object now, that comments made by the council members be addressed in the minutes. That's according to our rules and regulations and to Robert's rules. If a council member requests that the comments be listed, then they should be listed. They are not listed. They are listed as council members question a certain item. What were those questions? They should be delineated, Mr. Chairman. And I continue to bring that up because the minutes are not proper if they do not reflect what exactly takes place at the meeting. If a question arises and a question was raised by a council member and a member of the department head or someone else answers that question, then that should be in the minutes. They are not. That's why I object, and I object to these minutes. I cannot object to the others because I wasn't present at the other 2 meetings, but I do object to this meeting, Mr. President.
So noted. So you had a motion that died. I think we can clarify everything you said with 1 or 2 amendments. So basically, I'm looking for an amendment, particularly that 7-1 vote, which obviously is an error.
But there are other errors.
I'd like to take them separately, right? Separately.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'd like to approve the meeting minutes of September 18th, with the change of K, item number K being 6 to 1. Mr. Lizzie being the one no. So that is,
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to amend as read by Councilwoman Fonseca. Is there a second?
Dr. Cage, second.
We have a second by Councilman Solano. Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, is the motion strictly to amend that one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
October 11th,
Please.
next meeting.
Mr. Chairman,
October
I
11th.
again move to table the remaining, this minutes as amended.
We have a motion on the floor to table the minutes, September 18th. Is that correct?
As amended.
As amended. Is there a second to Mr. Lizaire's motion? Hearing none, seeing none, motion dies. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve collectively, can I do collectively,
Yes.
September 18th and October 11th?
Yes. We have a motion to approve collectively the minutes of September 18th and October 11th. Is there a second?
That's all, 3 people. Actually, I withdraw that motion.
Thank you. The motion is withdrawn. Go ahead.
So I move to approve the meeting minutes of September 18th.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of meeting September 18th. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Figueroa and Councilman Solano. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lizzie?
As I again reiterate my comments, the minutes in total, there are problems with the minutes. We've corrected one of them. The minutes reflect at the last page, page 8. Motion to recess the meeting was made by Councilman Ozia, seconded by Councilman Acosta. Meeting recessed at 9:29 p.m. Then we do not reconvene the meeting. There is a citation in the minutes which says motion to adjourn. The meeting was made on October 11th, 2017 by Councilman Solano, seconded by Councilwoman Fonseca. Motion carried 4-0. Present were Councilman Ferry, Councilman Figueroa, Councilwoman Fonseca, and Councilman Solano. Sonia Grace, City Clerk.
Mr. Lizzie, that's this October 11th meeting you're looking at. We're on
We're on September 18th now.
I am talking about September 18th.
And your problem being?
We do not give a date of the meeting is normally reconvened at a certain time. Whatever action was taken should be reflected in this minutes. They do not. So there was no, when we would ever reconvene on October 11th, which I wasn't here at that meeting, whatever vote or whatever action that was taken is not listed in the minutes that it should be, which is the September 18th. The minutes, because the September 8th meeting was recessed. There was no further action after we came back from recess stating what took place. That is an error.
Mr. President,
Madam
may
Clerk?
I described the actions of the day of October 11th that closed the meeting of September 18th.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lezay, you basically had to say you didn't get a
Point of
second.
order,
And we
Mr.
have what, in front of- we're under discussion, I agree,
Yes.
but you're becoming kind of redundant. I know
Point
you
of-
I know you disagree.
Okay, I'll
And
ask
it's
for
so
a legal
noted.
point of order.
I'm
I'll
sure
ask
it's
for a
so that.
legal
it's
point of
so
order,
that-
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Lezay, are you
I ask for
asking,
point of order.
legal?
The minutes do not reflect the coming back from a recess days later, and the action taken at that meeting is not reflected in these minutes, which should be in the carryover of the September 18th minutes, Mr. Chairman. We may have met, or the recess may have came back on a separate date, but this is still the meeting of September 18th. It should be noted the date that the recess reconvened, and whatever action that was taken is not listed in the minutes. And our point of order, that the minutes are incorrect. They should be corrected and then resubmitted, Mr. Chairman.
And that's your view.
I give the point of order to the solicitor, Mr. Chairman, for a ruling.
In looking at the minutes, from a legal perspective, they were done correctly. The adjournment was listed on the meeting minutes for the meeting that was adjourned, and I don't believe you have to do anything more than that.
Point of order, Mr. Solicitor. If the city council acted on any agenda items that were on the September 18th meeting, they are not listed in the minutes. They are not listed of whatever action a council member took or whatever vote that was taken on those items. Because we adjourned the meeting because it was late, I recommended that we recess it and come back to follow up at another meeting because it was getting late. So there were agenda items, they are not listed on here. And I object because these minutes do not reflect the minutes of the meeting and the action taken by the council on the September 18th meeting. We just did not, or you, the council just did not adjourn. I question that. Because,
Council did adjourn. Those two agenda items are listed in your minutes under October 11th. Item 2, motion to add consideration of petition by National Grid and Verizon. They were added to the October 11th agenda.
that's a separate agenda, Mr. Solicitor.
That's correct. We added
So they were not, I object.
So noted, Mr. Lezay. We have a motion to approve the minutes of September 18th. We had discussion. Roll call.
Councilman Berry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca? Yes. Councilman Lozaya?
No.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carried. Seven.
Thank you. Next item, minutes of October 11th. Looking for a motion.
I move to approve October 11th meeting.
Have a motion by Councilwoman Fonseca to approve the minutes of October 11th, second by Councilman Solano. Any discussion? Having none, seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilman Berry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta? Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca? Yes. Councilman Lozaya?
I asked to abstain from this. I was not present at the meeting.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carried. Seven.
Thank you. Next item. Minutes of October 18th. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilman Solano. Approve the minutes of October 18th. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Acosta. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilman Berry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca? Present. Councilman Lozaya?
I wish to abstain.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Madam Chair.
I just wanted to give the council an update on those October 18th meeting minutes. Because of the work of this council, the Department of Health swiftly, upon receiving the reports from the city, moved in and did immediately suspend the license of Sister Salon, and it remains closed to date. And Department of Health has no intention of revisiting that decision.
Thank you very much. That's good news for the action.
They closed it.
Is anyone present?
Yes, next item.
Next item. Executive communications. The consideration of appointments by Mayor James Yosa of Stephanie Restrepo of 115 Cross Street to Central Falls Juvenile Hearing Board.
Is she here tonight?
Yes.
Good. That's okay, you're not on trial. I just want to congratulate you and to meet you, and I'm sure, I don't know how many members you might know, but
A couple of them.
congratulations. Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Congratulations.
Have a motion by Councilman Solano, second by Councilman Figueroa. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays? Hearing none, seeing none. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Department of Private Financial Reports.
Has everyone reviewed the financial report? Are there any questions? We do have some department heads here this evening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
What department?
Let me start with the finance department, please. I want to thank you. I did speak to you a couple of times requesting financial information, which you were unable to provide. I'm not sure of the other members of council, so I'll say I still have not received June's financial statement. I've requested that a number of times from your office, but you were not able to provide that. I still have not received the year-end report. And I again request it. I also request, if it's possible, Mr. Chairman, for the next council meeting, not to belabor you with a variety of different questions. If the council could have a meeting, a financial budget meeting for the next council meeting or another date that we can go over the budget, what was proposed, what was passed, what is existing. There was a variety of questions that I submitted at the end of during the budget process. Some of those questions remain unanswered, or the answers have changed. So out of respect, I would ask that the mayor or the finance director or acting finance director be present so we can go over some of the budgetary items, because we are lapsed in certain reports.
Let me interject, Mr. Lucero. First of all, I believe the finance department has been, I think we're down one person full tonight, and we have another person that's out sick. So, in all fairness, Mr. Lazier, you said you spoke, the finance, I don't know if they told you, but they've been short-handed.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I realize, that's why
So
I'm asking for
keep
a
that,
meeting,
keep that
Mr.
in
Chairman.
mind. We can keep that under consideration.
Yes,
Absolutely.
this is something that I didn't ask for just now, Mr. Chairman. These are items that I've asked since last May, since June, August, when I went into the city finance office requesting documentation. And I am not putting the burden on the acting finance director. We budgeted for a finance director, a salary pretty substantial that has not been filled. So I understand there are delays, but when we are getting a agenda which says that we are receiving July 2017 revenue and August 2017 expenses, I'm still waiting for June 2017.
Provided it, I just don't know why you didn't have it, but I'll make sure you will.
That's what I request, and that's why there are other financial questions, Mr. Chairman, and I think it would probably be better to hold a separate meeting just on financial matters and budgetary items. We are the council that provides for the budget, and there were many questions that took place at the end of the fiscal year, and I think we need an update on the budget because that budget has changed. Some of the revenue that was projected has changed, and some of the actions that were requested has changed also. So that's something we can discuss as a council, because I do have a variety of questions, and it's not fair to the acting finance director to be questioned extensively on a whole budget when we still haven't got the information from June or the year end, June 30th, Mr. Chairman. So
Thank
I
you.
requested a separate meeting date or at the next budget, at the next
Minutes
hearing.
that
Thank
I did. Since we are under audit right now,
Yeah.
I think if we even would be in need of these meetings, I think makes sense to have quarterly but not monthly because it's too fast.
Well, could we get the second quarter, which is June 30th, and the, as much as up to date, the
Within a month,
October?
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, just as a point of order, according to our charter and ordinances, a financial report to the city council should be provided after the 15th of every month. We've been delinquent on receiving that, and I don't blame the acting finance director because of being short-handed, but we need, I as a councilman, need to review current financial information. I will be submitting a list of questions or documentation to be provided. That's something, as a council, I take my fiduciary responsibilities as seriously as I can.
I think she answered you, she said within a month, so thank you. If there's no other, is there any further questions for financial?
Yeah, Council President, I just want to mention something on behalf of our finance department. As always, council members, as you know, currently our finance department is relatively short-staffed, as has been done before. Should you have any questions, if you consolidate those questions provided to myself and finance, we'll respond to you normally within 7 business days. That's probably the easiest way, rather than throwing questions here and there, left and right, or just walking in and expecting answers immediately. You consolidate those questions, as has been done in the past, send them over to myself and Irina. We'll make sure those questions get answered within probably 7 business days, depending on the amount of requests that you have. Just wanted to throw that out there, so put it on the record. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. And any other questions for Irene?
I have a
Colleen?
comment, not necessarily for but I agree with Mr. Lizay in terms of maybe having a workshop, a finance workshop. So if that can happen by the end of January, that's enough time for you guys. It's just an opportunity to check in midway to see where we are with the city finances.
And hopefully you'll be full staff by then. I think that's the key to any workshop. If you're not full staff, I don't think it's fair to the department.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the councilman's recommendation, but I think January is too late. I'm still waiting for information for close of budget June 30th, and the current operating budget. We should be receiving those up to date. I would like to address the budget and the close of last year's budget items and what the new revenue for this current budget should be, not waiting till January, out of respect, Councilwoman, but I would like to have it done within the next month or so. A separate meeting would be preferable instead of taking time at the next monthly meeting. This is something I think deserves to be done separately.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lizette. Any other questions for Irina? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other department heads? No questions, I guess. Chief Bradley? Internal, I guess. They're all set. Sure, Chief, could you address one item that I spoke to you briefly regarding our rescue and the closing of that portion of Memorial Hospital,
Good evening, councilors.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, I can address that. As everybody's aware, what's going on at Memorial Hospital is on a relatively quick pace right now. I don't know if you're aware, but the intensive care unit at the facility has been closed, which has directly hampered what type of rescue calls our rescue personnel are able to transport to the hospital. Pretty much it's turned into a walk-in clinic at this point in the emergency room, which has made the necessity of our department to reach out to other hospitals in the Providence area, which has extended our run time per call out of necessity. There's no sense in us bringing a patient to a hospital that does not have any capability of a bed for them. The medical director at Memorial Hospital has dictated what type of calls they are capable of handling at this point in time. The list is extremely small. Pretty much you could sum it up. If you would go to a walk-in clinic and be determined that you're going to walk out of that clinic when your care is done, that's what the emergency room at Memorial Hospital has become at this point in time. So it's not uncommon for our rescues now to be going to places such as Our Lady of Fatima, to Roger Williams, which going back even 2 or 3 years ago was totally unheard of. Memorial handled quite a substantial number of our calls, and that time has changed, and we are adapting, and there is an ongoing discussion internally in the department as to present a plan to the mayor on how we're going to address this. That is still in the infancy stages, but obviously as this situation is roller coastering as fast as it can at this point, we are definitely putting that on a fast track about how we're going to try and provide the best service we can to the city without overtaxing the mutual aid policy of all the other surrounding cities and towns, because if we're having to go farther, they're having to go farther, and it's just going to put more of a burden on the emergency medical services throughout the entire Blackstone Valley community.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Chief, if you receive a call for someone having a heart attack presently, what are you doing?
We're taking them to the best hospital that can treat them at this point in time. The best hospital for anybody having any kind of chest pains whatsoever is the Miriam Hospital. Due to the fact that they have a 24-hour catheterization lab, they can handle them at 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning. That has not changed. Even when Memorial was up and running at full staff, any serious chest pains went directly to the Miriam.
Has there been any response from Miriam Hospital about restricting calls or not bringing normal rescue calls to Miriam or diverting it to another hospital?
They do have a standard diversion policy. There hasn't been anything out of the ordinary, but if they do not have beds and they are full because of some of the overflow from the other hospitals, they will turn rescues away and make them go to another facility, which only makes common sense. That why would you accept somebody if you don't have the capability of treating them? An example I can give you is that my dad went through back surgery and he spent 3 days in the surgical recovery unit because there was no room for him upstairs in the main occupational therapy wing. And then he was discharged from that. So that's the type of things that are going on in the area hospitals. And the other area hospitals, they're all going through the same reevaluation of their policies and procedures as to how they can better service everything, because they're getting a dramatic influx, and that's unavoidable. All the people who are going to Memorial, who cannot go, they have to go somewhere. So it's obviously putting a big draw on the area hospitals and the facilities and the procedures that they can provide in a safe and timely basis. It may mean that elective surgeries, instead of being 1 week out, could be 2 weeks out. It could take a longer time frame. But those are just some of the things that they're exploring at this point in time, and it's just a very big ongoing process.
Chief, if I can ask one more question, Mr. Chairman.
One more. I wrote it
One
down,
more question. Chief, having served on the fire department and the rescue when I was a lot younger and healthier, the rescue is a very difficult thing to do. Has the area mutual aid, your neighboring cities, have you guys met to decide or to make any further changes to its operation or response for calls, mutual aid calls? We could be called into Cumberland or Lincoln or Pawtucket or Providence, depending on mutual aid. Has there been any discussion or changes in that respect of mutual aid?
The mutual aid policy, as it stands right now, has not changed. There's ongoing discussions among the various organizations that made up that mutual aid plan, whether it's the Fire Chiefs Association, the Northern Area Fire Chiefs, the Metro, which we are technically a part of, but we're in a very unique situation because we are associated with the northern part in Providence Metro. That has not changed. There has been some discussion on how area departments are going to do that, and that's still an ongoing discussion at this point in time. But it is on the table. It's talked about every time there's a meeting. That's brought to the forefront. And there are committees that are exploring this as to how every department can better utilize the mutual aid policy without putting such a tremendous burden that we burn out other departments. Because we respond to other departments, as you're well aware of, but we ask for more help than we're able to give.
And how's the new truck?
Council President?
Thank you. Yes,
Just not to jump in, but these questions are supposed to be focused on the department financial report. And
Yeah,
although this is a valid discussion, I think there's a place to have it. I don't want it to get too far off course when,
and I totally agree.
I just want to.
I spoke to Bob earlier because I had heard something on the news. I was confused. I didn't implement the action. And you said intensive care, which means anybody with chest pain would have to go, probably the mayor. With that, I thank you, and thank you for what you did on Saturday. It was tremendous. Your part in the ceremony. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Council,
you.
if there's any other questions that arise with this that you are concerned about, please don't hesitate to reach out, and we can definitely answer those questions.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the Colonel? If not, I want to thank you, Colonel, also for your part Saturday and your efforts in bringing the keynote speaker. And thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next item. I have a request if we could move Roman numeral 7, A, B, C, and D right now. Apparently the people receiving citations are here without objection.
No objection, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilwoman Von Seeker and Councilman Rosero to move those items forward. With that, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays, hearing none, seeing none, ayes have it. Thank you for calling them
All
up.
right, so item 7A is citation of the Central Falls City Council to 3 people, Joshua Cassidy, Israel Rivera, and Scott Fleischman, in recognition for their courageous and selfless acts on August 23rd, 2017. 2 members, I believe, are here. Mr. Rivera was not able to attend. And Chief Bradley is here to speak as well.
Council, good evening once again. This letter came across my desk from one of my lieutenants who was on the scene the day this happened. He's very eloquent the way he writes. He put it into words better than I could. It's very short, if you'd like me to read it to you. And I think it would bring everything into clearance. This was addressed to myself and to Deputy Chief Sullivan from Lieutenant Christopher Gray on my department. Lieutenant Gray writes, on August 23rd, 2017, Central Falls Ladder 1, along with Lincoln Rescue 4, responded to an auto versus pedestrian accident with the police. Upon arrival, we located a patient that was in critical condition and diminishing very fast. There were crowds of people screaming and yelling, and an usually large group of people videotaping the incident. While all this was going on, there were two civilians who were attending to the victim, along with one of the Central Falls Police Department officers. The first of the civilians, Joshua Cassidy, with a military background, had placed a tourniquet around the patient's leg to stop massive blood loss due to the injury. Josh only had a small belt, but it was good enough to slow down the bleeding. The second civilian was Mr. Israel Rivera. He stayed with the patient, speaking with him and keeping him awake and focused, helping with keeping his overall mental status intact for the rescuers because the patient's waning level of consciousness. While all the bystanders videoed and stood there yelling for help, these two gentlemen stepped up and did what was needed to be done to help save this individual's life prior to the rescue personnel arriving. Officer Wakeman arrived and saw the patient's severe condition and the first treatment of the bystanders and saw the original tourniquet was good, but the bleeding was only slowed and not stopped. The officer used his military training and deployed his own tourniquet and applied it perfectly, stopping the bleeding completely and stabilizing the hemorrhage problem. All three of these individuals need to be recognized for their outstanding work in going above and beyond what is normally expected. Please take this letter as a request for formal recognition of these individuals, and please keep me involved in the process. Below, he listed the name, address, and phone numbers of the two civilians, and also reiterated the name of the patrolman. Respectfully, Lieutenant Christopher Gray, Central Falls Fire Department. All I can say is that I think those words pretty much speak for themselves, that if it wasn't for the very fast action of two of the three individuals that you have standing here before us, they were not part of the crowd. As we all know what happens, everybody wants to videotape it and post it. They decided that something needed to be done, and that individual who they gave first aid to and used their tourniquets in their training is still alive to this day thanks to their heroic.
Thank you so much for that great job. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, can I ask that the letter that the chief read be included in the minutes for our record? Make that a motion or request?
Yes, if not, I'll send it to John.
Thank you.
Thank you again, thank you, Chief.
Item B is consideration of appointment of Donald Flynn to the position of city sergeant.
And Mr. Dillon here, let me come right on up. Yeah, Donnelly, you don't, again, you're not on trial. This position is, I guess the official name could be city sergeant, which will help alleviate getting a package, for example, to not only the council members, also, I think it would be a great help to the city clerk's office. Occasionally, there are items that have to be picked up in emergency, things to be delivered, and even at council meetings, if there's something that needs to be gotten downstairs, for example. But for years, we've had city sergeants, and that has gone vacant for a number of years. Alan's a good man, I can vouch for him. There's no explanation further needed, except it would be a great asset to Central Falls to have a city sergeant.
Mr. Chairman, I believe it's long overdue, as I've stated meeting after meeting, but to officially do that, I'd make a motion that Mr. Donald Godin be appointed the city sergeant by the city council.
We have a motion by Councilman Revere, second by Councilman Pansy, and Councilman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Next one is a presentation by Ms. Georgia Lowe, is regarding the census 2020.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You can pick it up.
You can hold it.
Oh, okay. I can get full. We just, if you could take one.
Do you want the Lois?
Yes. I know Lois, I don't know her that well, but,
Oh.
yes. So, I guess I'll hold it.
Yeah, just pull it out.
Okay. Is that, yeah, that's good. Thank you so much for having me here this evening, council members, chief of staff, other town officials, residents of Central Falls. My name is Georgia Lowe, and I'm with the U.S. Census Bureau, and I'm a partnership specialist, and I'm here to speak with you this evening about a little bit about the 2020 census, which is, I know, is a few years away, but we've been doing a lot of planning for it, and more immediately about the 2018 end-to-end census test, which will take place in Providence County next year. So again, thanks for having me. I'm going to try to move as quickly as I can without rushing, because I know you have a very busy agenda here this evening, so I'll try not to take up too much of your time. So a little bit of background for those who don't know, the Census Bureau is the leading source of data about the nation's people and economy. So we are a data collection agency. We count the population of our country every 10 years when we conduct the decennial census, next one being in 2020, as mandated by the Constitution. In addition, and I should have mentioned on the left side of your folders that I handed out, sorry I don't have enough for everyone, is the presentation that I'm going to be moving through, and on the right side is just some information, some pamphlets about some of our other surveys and projects that we do. So in addition to the census that we do every 10 years, we also collect data on a variety of surveys covering a wide range of topics such as employment and unemployment, health, crime, consumer expenditures, and many others. We do over 130 surveys each year. So the Census Bureau does have a permanent staff of field representatives that are out working all the time. We don't just do the census every 10 years and then, nothing the other 9. We have a lot going on all of the time. We do also, I just wanted to mention, we have 45 of these permanent field representatives right here in the state of Rhode Island. So there could be someone knocking on doors, well, there are field representatives knocking on doors on a regular basis in the state of Rhode Island and all across the country. when we start talking about the census that we do every 10 years, there are a number of purposes for conducting the census, and the data are used for a wide variety of purposes, but I'll just mention the two most important. And that is that census data are used in apportioning seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, and they're used also to draw congressional and state legislative districts. So important things. They're also crucial for deciding how more than $600 billion per year is allocated to cities and towns. So I'll just mention a few important design elements for the 2020 census, and then I'll move on and talk about the 2018 test, since that's the main reason that I'm here tonight. For 2020, our goal for this census, as it always is to count everyone in this country once, only once, and in the right place. So that's our overarching goal. We have a whole lot of procedures and systems in place to make that happen. But one other key element I want to mention is that the 2020 census will be the most technologically advanced census ever, and it will be easy for people to respond. The public will be able to respond online, over the phone, and on paper. In the past, you could only respond on paper. The questionnaire would come to your home, and hopefully you'd fill it out and send it back to us. For those who don't respond, either online, on the phone, or on paper, we will send someone out to your door, to your residence, to hopefully collect the information from you, since again it is mandated by the Constitution that we conduct this census. We want to do it as accurately as we possibly can. We want to count every single person, because every person determines how much funding comes to your community. So we want to get it right. Okay, moving on to talk more specifically about the test that's happening in Providence County. We do conduct a variety of tests throughout the decade, and we're now at the point where we're about to conduct the last test before the 2020 census. So we have conducted a number of other tests. This is the final one. The purpose of this test is to make sure our plans for 2020 are sound. It's essentially like a dress rehearsal, testing all of the operations and systems that we intend to use for the 2020 census. Providence County is the only test site in 2018. So all eyes are going to be on Providence County in the early part of 2018. It was chosen for its cultural and language diversity, different address types, different housing structures, for its urban and rural settings, as well as varying levels of internet access and usage. So it's a good microcosm of the United States. I will mention that initially there were 3 test sites, but that was whittled down to 1 due to budget considerations. So again, Providence County is the only test site, which is kind of neat for you all. One of the reasons that's kind of neat for you is because you will get to see like a sneak peek of the population numbers for your communities in advance of 2020. We are going to release the data from the test to the public, which actually has never been done before, so it's neat. And again, it'll give you a sneak peek, a snapshot of your community, and if you think we got it wrong, we can discuss that and hopefully get it right for the main event in 2020. That's one of the reasons that we do tests. So there's a slide, and I'm sorry, I don't think they're numbered, at some point in your presentation there that has like a time frame of the test. We did some recruiting in the spring. We brought some people on. We did an operation in September where we were updating the addresses in the county so that we know where to mail the notices for the census. And now we are heavily focused on recruitment for the main event taking place for the test, which is next spring and summer. So you may have seen notices, flyers, I don't know, emails, postings on social media. That's what we've been trying to do to spread the word about these jobs that we're trying to hire for, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. So we're heavily focused on recruiting right now, trying to get the word out about the jobs. April 1st of 2018 is Census Day. April 1st is always Census Day, so that will be the date for 2020 as well. What that means is that sometime in March, we'll be sending notices to all of the housing units, all of the addresses all across Providence County, every single address that we have in our database. We'll get a notice asking you to go online and complete the census form. If we haven't received responses from people by April 1st, shortly after that is when we start sending people out to knock on doors to try to get the responses in person. Hence the people that we need to hire to do that job. So we need to hire over 1,000 people across the county. To do that, we need to build up an applicant pool of about 8,000 people, which is a lot. We've been having some trouble getting people to apply, which I understand because the jobs don't actually start until next April, May, and into the summer, so people don't always think that far ahead. But we really need to be doing, getting people to apply now so that we can have enough people in our applicant pool to select from starting in March. So that's one of the reasons I'm here, is to ask for help in doing that. These jobs, I'm not sure if I mentioned already, are mainly census taker jobs, which are also known as enumerators. The people, again, that will knock on the doors to try to get people to respond if they didn't do it online. They're temporary part-time jobs, but they pay well, over $20 an hour, so that's not bad. It's not going to be someone's solution to their, it's not a full-time job, but it's a nice supplement for people. So we have been seeking help from our partners in helping, to promote these job opportunities for us. Some of the ways our partners have been doing that is sharing the information on their websites, their social media, sending email blasts out, putting an article in the newsletter, or even just something as simple as displaying our paper, flyer in the window. We want to hire within the local communities where the work will be done, and it will be extremely important to have a diverse staff of census takers, because people are more likely to open the door for someone if they're either familiar or if they speak the same language or look like them. So again, we really want to try to hire people from the local communities. That's really the most important information that I wanted to share with you here today. There's a few more slides that I didn't, really need to cover in detail. I will also mention, though, that we have a data dissemination program that's a free resource to anyone, really. But if you have anyone in your community or in your offices that, does grant writing or that sort of thing, they probably need to access census data for their proposals, where if somebody wants to open a business, they need to come up with a business plan, they need data. We have a huge amount of data on our website, but sometimes it's not easy to access. So we have a staff of people who are trained in training people how to access the data. So I just wanted to mention that's something that we can give back to you all as a free resource if you need help. And the contact person, or the contact information for that person, who again is Rhode Island, is on the last page along with mine and my coordinator Paul Reyes, who couldn't be here this evening. So the data dissemination person is Anna Marie Garcia, and she's available to take phone calls or do workshops or anything like that if you need that service. So with that, I'll just ask if there are any questions.
Yeah, I'd like to interject saying, please, let's limit our questions. She's been waiting here since 6 o'clock, so, Franklin, go ahead.
Just a quick question.
Yeah,
If the people are interested to apply, and it would be a part-time job, of course, you should say, how many hours per day or per week are they allowed to work?
Are they allowed to? It's very flexible. We're willing to work with whatever schedule someone wants. You know, if someone's only available evenings, weekends, because they have a full-time job, that would be fine. If someone can only work 15 hours a week, we'll take it.
If that person wanted, well, let's say 40 hours a week, they allowed to?
Yes. Yeah.
Tony? Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have two quick questions. Thank you for being here. And you guys were actually at the job fair a couple of weeks ago, so hope you guys got some interest there. Just a quick question, in terms of the survey, why isn't Portuguese an option? Like, I'm thinking about the Providence population. We have one of the highest in the country, Cape Verdean population, with Portuguese is the native language. And none of the surveys, none of them are Portuguese.
So I guess which survey would you?
The American ACS. I'm looking at the American, and that's the one that's the 2020, right?
Well, the ACS used to be that used to be the long form on the census, but now we do it separately because we do it on an ongoing basis. So yes, it's true, it's not available in Portuguese. We do have some literature in Portuguese, but not the actual survey, you're right. We do have field representatives. I know from having worked on surveys in the past that we do have some field reps who speak Portuguese, so they should be able to get someone to do it, you know, in person or on the phone in their language, but yeah, you're right.
I'm just talking, just Providence County, it's a huge population, remember, run into that,
Yeah.
Providence and Pawtucket and Central
Right.
Falls.
We run into the same thing in New Bedford and Fall River.
And I have a second question, and you may not have the answer to this, but just figured I'd ask. So, on most of the surveys, Hispanic is broken up, Asian's broken up, Native American. Why isn't African American broken up? You have the Caribbean, you have African, Cape Verde. Why isn't that subset broken up?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm pretty sure for the census it is, and I thought that for ACS it was, but I couldn't be sure. Or-
Thank you.
I could look into it for you.
If
If
you
you want
can.
to email, like if you want
Yes.
to email me,
Yeah.
that'd be fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same goes for anything else that somebody might have after the fact.
Hugo?
A question. Should undocumented immigrants be concerned about sharing their data?
They should not. The Census Bureau is nonpartisan. We also are sworn to confidentiality for life. So even if I were to leave the Census Bureau tomorrow, I would not be able to share anything that I have seen or, you know, heard in my 30 years almost of employment with the Census Bureau. But also in addition to that, I mean, we are going to have a national communications campaign for 2020, not for 2018, but, and that is going to be one of the messages, that it's safe. We cannot share any information that we receive, any data with any other government agency, including the president, the IRS, ICE, or anybody else. We strictly within the Census Bureau. And any identifying information is stripped away before we publish the data.
Yep.
I'm a sociologist, so we can talk the label question later if you want. But on the individual data rule, I would talk to your constituents. There's a 72-year, essentially like lock on the data. And so none of the individual level information comes out until a lifetime has passed before the person. Most people will be dead by
That's
the
correct.
time you can identify that kind of data.
That said, just real quick, we realize that that is going to be a challenge for us, those communities, definitely, and that we are going to be reaching out to folks, you know, later on to talk about ways of overcoming those challenges.
One question.
I have two questions. One is, where are your offices if people are going to be working out of it? And secondly, as a follow-up on Councilwoman Fonseca, my understanding this year, this census will be the first that will be breaking down a separate category. Arab American, I believe, will be listed separately this census for the first time.
I know that's being proposed. I believe next March is the date by which the Census Bureau has to have decided all of that so that we can send our proposed questions to Congress. I don't know that that's 100% final yet, but I know that that was in the works. That was, hoping, we were hoping for that to happen, but I don't know the final. That hasn't been finalized yet. But that is in the plans.
Your office.
So I work out of the New York office, but there is an area, and this is some of the stuff that was in here that I kind of skimmed over. We have opened an office in Providence, in the city of Providence for the test that will stay open through 2020 for the 2020 census. So there are folks working there now. The census takers will be working for, folks out of that office.
You have the
It's on
address.
Broad Street,
Somewhere in Broad
downtown, across from the J. Wu bookstore.
There you go. I was there last week, but I don't remember the address.
I don't know the
I
exact
can find out.
Send it to us.
I have a question regarding the recruitment. I assume that you people hopefully be making a concerted effort to get into the high schools to recruit census takers.
Yeah, actually, we did meet with one of the high school principals a couple of weeks ago, so we're trying to, I had been reaching out to all the superintendents at one point, some of them some didn't. And that's another way that folks in the cities can help here for us to connect with folks like that. But yes, because high school students who are going to be 18 by next March
Correct. Yep.
would definitely be eligible, and that's a great segue into a summer job for them.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And a good skills builder too.
With that, if there's no other question, I thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. I saw you out there since
No
past
problem.
6 o'clock.
Thank you so much.
And best of luck. Thank you. So that brings us to item D.
The consideration of lease agreement between the city of Central Falls and Southside Community Trust.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Jenny Boone, and I'm the Grants and Outreach Manager at Southside Community Land Trust, which is located in Providence.
Can you talk louder, please?
Oh, sure. I don't know how much information we have about the Garfield Park Community Garden.
Actually, Rob came and gave a Rob, Sarah McCoy from Park and Rec gave a presentation to the council, I think it was about 2 months ago, on this project. So, now it's time for the lease proposal.
I'll interject those that are not familiar, those in the audience, so that you just councilman, that's currently called, I think, the Garfield Street Playground, and it's in tough shape. And hopefully what you're going to present is going to give that a little boost and provide some vegetables, from what I gather.
Yeah, there will be space for 50 community garden plots, plus an area with raised beds for people who are disabled or seniors who can't bend over easily. The construction has already begun, and I think it's going to be finished this week. The fundraising for the garden has been completed. The project came up the end of 2016, and the fundraising was just completed last month, which is pretty quick for, it's a $57,000 budget thus far. The additional cost will come next spring when the water is installed, but for $57,000 is for scraping the land, putting in clean soil, building barriers, beds, all of the things that go into creating a large community garden.
Mr. Chairman.
Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I know I, a few months ago, questioned this. We just received this, the lease agreement addresses an Exhibit A, which I am not in possession of, I would like to get before I take any action. I think Hugo had a copy, but could we get the exhibit? And I do have some questions. I'm not familiar with your Southside Community Land Trust organization at all. I'm curious.
I did bring some materials if you want to.
I'm curious, could you explain your involvement and how your involvement was brought to Central Falls?
I have our last annual report and some newsletters that I'll give you a little information. So our organization was founded in 1981 in South Providence, and it started with a $5,000 grant, and with that we bought a parcel in an abandoned neighborhood where there was a lot of arson and disinvestment over the years. There were a lot of Laotian refugees in the neighborhood, African Americans, and just longtime residents who had a hard time buying affordable, fresh produce, which is a problem that continues today. Food desert neighborhoods, if you're familiar with that term, is where it's hard to buy healthy food. So from that one garden, we now have 52 in Providence and Pawtucket, and this Garfield Park would be the first one in Central Falls, which is very exciting for us because we like to go into neighborhoods where there's a lot of need and where residents have expressed an interest in growing their own food. So we provide inexpensive yearly plots and affordable agricultural resources like seeds, organic compost, water, and tools to grow vegetables. We also offer workshops in the spring and throughout the growing season. And these gardens have been quite successful. Providence is well known for having a lot of urban agriculture, more than many cities, and many of those individual gardeners go on to become market growers. So they grow more than their family can eat, and they want to sell their produce at farmers markets or directly to restaurants. So many have gone on to have a means of support from growing vegetables.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Just receiving this, I do have questions on, maybe with Peter, the site itself. My understanding presently has a property on it.
Peter, can you speak about the layout of the site?
Could you explain the parcels themselves?
Certainly, my name is Peter Friedrichs. I'm the City Director of Planning and Economic Development. The 11 by 17 inch color document that's in front of you is a site drawing of the community garden and surrounding Garfield Street Playground, and it shows a portion of the lot at 147 Summer Street, which is in the right side of this site plan. So the dimensions of that lot are approximately 50 feet by 100 feet, and it goes from Summer Street, adjoining the post office, through to the back corner of the Garfield Street playground, which is this double wide lot here facing Garfield Street. That's approximately 100 feet by 100 feet. So the community garden that's shown with the thick black outline is the area that's described in the lease. And that runs along the property line on the western edge of the Garfield Street playground, adjoining, I think it's Children's Friends, and continuing to the site of the demolished 151 Summer Street, adjoining the post office parking lot, and stopping approximately 5 feet north of 147, 149 Summer Street, which is the vacant structure on that parcel. And then continuing east approximately 45 feet to a point about 10 or 15 feet west of the easterly property line for 147 and 149 Summer Street.
Yeah, let someone else talk, because Colleen had a question.
Can you just remind us when this presentation took place?
When the, what took place?
The presentation took place. They said there was a presentation?
Yes, Rob spoke to the city council. It was the city council meeting that I wasn't here. So that was probably maybe 2-3 months ago. We also held some community meetings regarding the site. But when it went in front of the council, it was when I wasn't here. So I think that was a meeting that was probably about 3 months ago.
Yeah, because I don't remember getting this layout at all. And I do have a lot of questions because the lease is a 20-year lease. And this is a site that we thought about doing the community center at. So I'm just wary about giving someone a big parcel of land when we don't even have a lot of parcels of land in the city for 20 years. That's a long period of time.
If I would mention, if I may, the site that we looked at for the community center planning commission, I believe was approximately 30,000 feet, which was when we were investigating the site at the municipal parking lot. That site is much larger than what is currently the layout of this site. Not to say that you couldn't go 2 floors, but
I understand. I just meant any city, any other project that we want to do in the city, this could be a good layout for. So in terms of the existing structures, what do you plan to do with the existing structures? I don't know if that's part of this, like the playground and the swing set, what do we?
The playground and the swing set are staying. The playground was repainted a couple of years ago.
This past summer. But, so is it gonna be fenced in? Like, how are you
Yes.
going to maintain the garden?
They are fenced in, and that's because people spend a lot of time on their gardens, and unfortunately, sometimes people come along and want to steal or damage people's plots, so all of our gardens are fenced. I think one thing that was appealing about this site is that it doesn't have structures on it right now, and Central Falls has very little open space, and this would preserve this piece of land as open space for those 20 years.
Anyone else? You have a question? Okay. Okay.
And if I can just say, we like long-term leases with any project where a lease isn't involved, because there's quite a lot of investment on our part to do one of these projects in terms of our staff time, building the infrastructure, doing the outreach to the community to see how they want to use the land, and to teach people how to grow, get people connected with this, forming a community, training garden leaders. It all takes a lot of time, and we don't want to walk away from that after 10 years, because sometimes it can take 2 or 3 to fill a garden and make it a vibrant growing space.
Just a quick question. What's your plan for really engaging the community so that it doesn't become a group of outsiders coming and essentially farming in our backyard and then going home somewhere else?
Sure, I can talk about that. Well, already we've gone door to door to talk to people about the possibility of having a garden there and would they be interested in growing. We had a design workshop, a planning workshop in the spring where we invited people from the community and community stakeholders. It was hosted at Children's Friend, and there were a couple of dozen community members there. And we had facilitator and broke into groups and did a lot of just bouncing ideas around about how would this space best be used, what would you grow, how do you think this would benefit, what are the obstacles, all those things. And we got a lot of really good information. And we did this a couple of years ago with another garden that's near us on Broad Street. And a lot of decisions were made based on, in both cases, a lot of decisions are made based on what comes out of those planning sessions. There will continue to be door-to-door outreach. We give people in the neighborhood, those are the people we want growing in the garden. We don't want people from the outside because that's not what it's about. The gardens, all of our gardens are fully subscribed. It's a pretty popular, when people start it, they want to, usually people want more than one plot, and 2 is about the average. And they can have those plots from year to year unless they decide they don't want to do it. And then there's usually a waiting list, and we give it to somebody else. But yeah, the gardens aren't for anybody but the people in the neighborhood. That's not the purpose of them.
Yeah, I remember I went to that session, when you guys had it, and a lot of them talk about maintaining the garden, lighting the garden, so. I remember I went to that session.
Yes, you look familiar.
Do you have any meeting notes, any sign-in sheets, anything from that meeting you'd be able to share with us?
We do. I don't know if, I don't know about a sign-in sheet, but there are, the meeting was documented, and we can, if you want to talk to someone. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the maintenance of the property or the proposed
Sure.
maintenance?
So we have work days in the spring and the fall, and everyone who has a plot in the garden come to those work days, and we clear the common areas, weed whack if necessary, help people, get started with their gardens. There's going to be a shade structure. Sometimes we have to raise additional funds to build something like that, and then we want people who are using the garden to come out and help build it. So people make an investment of their own time in the gardens. We train 2 to 3 people from each garden to become a garden leader, and those people, it's their job to distribute resources, like seeds and compost, to be in charge of tools, to make sure that the common areas like the rows are clear, and resolve conflicts if they arise.
So your season basically will be spring to winter, and then it's basically no activity throughout the winter or
Right.
Yeah, okay, so it's
I
pretty
mean,
good.
people will have, access, they can get in there, but there isn't any growing usually going on after November.
Anyone else, or it's pretty basic? I'm gonna say the last one, Tom, because she's been here a while.
I have additional questions, Bob. I waited for the other council members to ask theirs. I am in a budding property owner across the street, directly across the street. I received no information on this or notice of meetings. I would like further documentation. We've just received this lease. I am not against it, but before I would vote to grant the city a 20-year exclusive lease on a piece of property such as this, to be utilized only for spring to the fall, without further information or documentation, I'm concerned that this may go along pretty well for a couple of years, and then there is not an interest in it by the community. As was mentioned by one of the other council members, I wouldn't want to see this to be a garden for Southside Community Land Trust out of Providence or some other locations. This
Well,
is
I've been with the organization for almost 3 years, and I've never heard of people losing interest in a garden. If anything, there's more and more people wanting to eat what they grow without pesticides. And I haven't heard of people, neighbors around a particular garden.
You're in a very urban area. A few blocks away, there is a community garden that's been ongoing for many years on Perry Street.
I don't know, is that at the school?
Yes, it's a
not
garden.
anything.
I don't think that's a community garden in the sense of the gardens that we organize.
I'm not sure. I'm concerned that,
I think
I've
that's
only-
why the Parks Department wanted to work with Southside, because we have the experience and staff to build interest in a garden, and we have dealt with a lot of the issues that come up around them, and, you know, like having them have fences and marking them, things like that. So we do know how to avoid some of the pitfalls that can come up, or lack of maintenance.
these are all good questions that, something that we could further get information. Could you explain exactly what this entails? Are these just raised beds?
Yes. the small-
Do these have any further construction?
We have found over the years that if you're building many plots, it's a lot more efficient to have in-ground beds rather than raised beds. Although you need raised beds when it comes to people who aren't able to bend down, and people in, who need easy access. So the other beds are, the plots are marked, not on here because they're not on there. They're not built yet, but
What are these?
those are the raised beds, the small
The
ones.
ones on the left are the raised beds?
Yes.
Raised how?
They're built at about this height, so
Yeah.
that if you're in a wheelchair, or if you're a senior who doesn't bend over easily, you can stand and garden or sit and garden.
How are they constructed?
They've got wood sides, and they're loaded with soil up to about here.
What is the drainage in it?
That's a technical question I can't answer.
There's a lot of questions.
I mean, I don't build the gardens, so I don't know how they're doing.
On the right side, this approximately 50 feet by 80 feet. That is, how is that constructed?
Well, that's, I don't have a picture, but there are, like the things that you see, on a driveway that have reflectors on them. They're stakes that are in the ground,
Yeah.
3 feet or so, to demarcate a plot. So people.
How many plots are in this lot section?
There should be 50.
Okay, there should be 50 in this lot section. Now, this lot section, from what I understood from here, the vacant abandoned house is still staying?
That is correct.
Sure.
Yes, that is correct.
What's the plans on that?
I think that is an item that there are still several discussions going on about. We don't have a clear answer yet.
Okay, Matt?
Mr. Chairman,
But I would also like to mention that, Councilman, you have many questions, which is apparent. I'd also like to mention that you assumingly received your packet probably a
No.
week ago?
no, I didn't.
Okay, so you probably received your
I
packet
received it Tuesday night.
Tuesday night. So
Yes.
I would just like to ask, when we have presentations, if you could prepare your questions or send them over to Southside Community Land Trust so you're not bombarding our guests with 50 questions in one night. So I would just ask that you review the material prior to coming to the meeting so that you're not just,
I do what's provided.
Can
This
I-
was not
yeah.
provided.
Just as a point of clarification, it says consideration of, there was no presentation, so I think what would have been helpful is to have the presentation first, because I don't remember this, and it's clear other council people don't either, and then come to a vote.
I don't know if this map was provided, but there was a presentation.
yes, there was a presentation.
But you don't know when it
Matt?
happened.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, section, I was very involved with this in terms of getting into the legalese of the lease, and to the council's point, section 4.7 of the lease deals with 147 Summer, which is the front property currently abandoned. And so the question was, currently the properties have been linked, the city took the properties, linked the properties. And so if the city were ever to sell 147 Summer, we put in protective language to ensure that both the investment Southside Community Land Trust made and the city's interests were both protected. In that regard, I would also add a couple of things I found out as I was drafting the lease. One was Representative Maldonado, in terms of the city's, putting the city's money into the project, was able to secure a $10,000 grant from the state of Rhode Island to build the project. And as part of my research and going through this, Southside does have 3 decades at least experience of working with low-income immigrant communities in building economic empowerment models around urban agriculture and urban farming.
A couple
Thank
of
you.
other things. One of the really nice things about this property is that the playground is there, which is going to bring more people to the gardens. Also, its proximity to Children's Friend, which has expressed an interest in having a plot for their clients, do programming, and Progressive Latino is another community partner that's very interested in being part of this, and we hope that there will be others.
I have a question regarding, is this time sensitive? What would your plans be pending, should it be approved tonight or not approved tonight? Is it time sensitive where you wouldn't be doing much over the winter, correct?
Right. I believe that the construction that's being worked on right now will put us in a position in the spring to have the water installed and then be pretty much ready to go. The clean soil has been put in place, the fence is in place. Marking the properties is probably something that will happen in the spring. And we'd like to get some.
So there's already activity there, is that what you're saying?
There is, yes.
Councilman?
Mr. Chairman, has alternative site locations been looked into? There are vacant locations, not directly in an urban area, but in the peripheral of the city.
Well,
That
one
may,
thing that's really nice about this location is that it is central. Also, it's not, sometimes when you have vacant properties that are covered with asphalt or cement, it's pretty expensive to break them up and start new. This was, you can speak more to this than me. They did look at other properties, and this one was the likeliest candidate.
Peter?
I don't want to get too much into the history of community gardens in the city and talk necessarily about the broader vision, but I will say that the city has been trying to promote gardening for a variety of reasons within the city, at least since my time here. And I think we've tried to do that in a variety of ways. The original proposal for what's now Veterans Park that was proposed to the Department of Environmental Management included some community garden plots. And in my tenure here as Director of Planning and Economic Development, the site that we've identified for additional city-sponsored community gardening plots is this location. And we purposely sought out Southside Community Land Trust, as the city solicitor mentioned, because of their track record of experience. And I think that this parcel, this opportunity here that's in front of council tonight is an opportunity to have a pilot project and to see how this works out. And then we can collectively as a city look at additional and different opportunities for community gardening in the future.
Thank you, Peter. And Colleen?
I move to table the consideration of the lease agreement between City of Central Falls and Southside Community Land Trust until we can get more information from the community meeting that we had, a maintenance plan, and anything else the council may need.
Can I answer questions about a maintenance plan? I
But
thought
I would want it written,
Okay.
if possible.
I would second
Wait.
the motion.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilman Fonseca and seconded by Councilman Lazier. Any discussion on the motion?
To be fair, the lease includes that they have to have a maintenance plan, and it becomes one of the reasons that we could revoke their lease if they didn't follow it. I mean, you could still definitely see it, but my point is, if you thought it was in terrible condition, you would strip them of the contract within 5 days.
Under discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Anything else to add? No. Mr. Lazier?
I think it's a noble project to look into, but as a councilman at this point, I don't have enough information to commit the city to a parcel of land for 20 years at $1. I do not know a year, 2, 3, 4 years down the line of what the parcel could develop into. There may be a major project coming, or there may be a...
I think that Central Falls has 3% open
Don't make that
space.
comparison.
As I said, there is a motion to table it. I'm not looking for a response at this point because we will be getting more responses from you and from our planning department. I think the information that you provide, this is a starting framework of a discussion that I think the council needs to continue. I, as I said, own property next to it, and I did not know anything of this. I was questioning what was going on with the house, but the community garden and other residents in that area that I know were not familiar with it, so I think more of an outreach is quite possible. I have a lot more questions on it, and I know some of the council members do, but I am not against it, but there's still a lot more needs to be discussed.
Thank you, Mr. Lazier. Anyone else? Being time sensitive, I'm going to throw this out of the council. We could wait till next meeting, which would be the second Monday in December, or we could go with the fourth, the last meeting of the last Monday of the month, which we had built in anyway, which would be the 27th of November. So what is your pleasure? Should this be tabled?
Council President, there's a comp plan meeting initially scheduled for the next council meeting. Just a heads up.
What type of meeting?
The comp plan that I had discussed with you,
okay, that'd be a long
presentation
one
to the
then.
council.
Roll call vote on tabling this?
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
No.
Councilman Figueroa? Councilwoman Fonseca?
Yes.
Councilman Zay?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries. Consideration table until December meeting.
Thank
Till
you.
when?
December.
December meeting. And we can request, submit to the council president further questions or documentation prior to that meeting.
Sure, we'd be happy to answer questions.
And the maintenance plans, and question, the maintenance plans is like in the works.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we're going to go back
Okay.
to the way the agenda was originally. So now up to Roman numeral 6, scheduled bills, hearing consideration. And the first one is ordinance creating the vacant or abandoned commercial storefront act, introduction.
So introduce,
Can I, did we get that in our packet?
Yes, sir.
just introduction.
B, ordinance amending chapter 22nd, law enforcement, and chapter 20, fire prevention and protection, introduction.
So introduce.
Mr. Chairman, also, point of order, I cannot find that first,
Thank you.
that ordinance creating the vacant and abandoned commercial storefront.
If it's not in our packet, it shouldn't get introduced. Point blank, period.
I did not
It's
receive
in my
it.
packet.
I
Can
can't-
I see it? Can we see it? It's not in mine. Unless you can show me where specifically. Where is it?
No, you're right. So
It's not there, so can we take away that introduction?
Probably only have the copy, well.
No, but the
Anyone
council
else,
needs
Frank?
to see it in order to introduce it.
You have a copy? You have a copy? Okay.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman,
then I have to, I'll take that responsibility, Ms. Fonseca, that was not done purposely. It was a mistake.
Yeah, I know.
I was in the assumption that was put in, when we put it in, the packet, it was recreated, and it was reviewed multiple times by lots of us, so at some point, it must have just come out of the packet and never made it back in, so I apologize.
Can I ask to move it to next meeting?
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, just as a,
Mr. Lozelle.
Can I table the ordinance creating the vacant or abandoned commercial storefronts act, introduction to this December meeting, please?
second,
We have a motion tabled by Councilman Fonseca, seconded by Councilman Solano and Councilman Lozelle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Lozelle, one moment, please. Just for the purpose to support what Sonia said, I was the first one to pick up my packet. That's perhaps why I had one, which I recommend. Anyone that has a chance to pick up your packet early, so do it. And also, now that we have a city sergeant, perhaps those problems will be alleviated. Ms. Fonseca?
Mr. Chairman,
But what kind of asking you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's in my packet. Mr. Lozelle?
yes, Mr. Chairman, I have no problem having it not in the packet. It was a mistake, it's not a problem. I think as a policy, this council should not act on any item that is not included in the package if it's on the agenda. I stated that in the past. If something is not provided, then we should not be acting on it. And I hope we continue with this decision, because there have been, we don't want to take action on items that are not reviewed properly or not received properly. And I have no problem with having it acted on at the next meeting.
Well, that problem just happened here tonight at the meeting.
And that's fine.
It didn't happen prior to the meeting, obviously. It's just come up now. Next item.
Ordinance creating the Central Falls Green and Complete Streets Initiative, introduction.
So introduced. I assume everyone has that one.
Yep.
So introduced.
Item D, resolution in support of the Central Falls application for Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management acquisition grant.
And the address is at 935 High Street.
Mr. Chairman?
Can I get it out?
Mr. Lazier, I'm asking the city solicitor a question.
Okay, I'll wait until the solicitor comments.
What's the address? The address of the property is at 935.
It's actually three addresses.
The street, correct?
It's 935 High Street, 1415 High Street, and 1485 High
Okay,
Street.
thank you, Derek.
Yep.
935, I believe, is that the building on the Wyatt Center land across the street, that little?
Yes, it is.
Right now it says 950, so you might want to make that correction.
Yep.
I just want to clarify what we're talking about, what the actual number is. Derek, that is the property, the Wyatt across the street?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I believe the other two is the River Island?
What's that? Yeah, it's owned by Blackstone Valley LLC.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, you said what, 950? Or 1350?
No, that's the other one.
1350 is the stadium, I believe.
Derek, are you going to be speaking on this?
I can answer any questions that you have in regards to it. Well, with also Josh and Peter can help in some capacity, but we have three resolutions on there, obviously.
So we'll take resolution D.
Can we take them collectively?
No, I think we should discuss each building individually for each piece of property.
So which is which?
I believe the first one is the Little Wyatt building.
That doesn't help.
The first one
Across the
is,
street.
Okay, so Little League Park or Maycomber Stadium. There's names. Maycomber Stadium, are we
Okay,
talking about?
the Little Health building across the street from Wyatt that they use for exercise is a little gym
yeah,
in
it's still there.
the high school.
So Maycomber.
No.
So, okay,
The
so
training
Little
League
League.
field.
That's what I said first, the Little League field. So that's D.
That's correct.
Okay. And then E is Maycomber. And F is,
River Island.
And we're with them.
thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I received a phone call earlier this week regarding neighbors along Ward 2, Samoset Platte.
It's a separate issue, Tom.
That's why I
That's the bike,
questioned.
this is not the bike path.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that this was not.
This is
those-
not the
those
bike
properties.
path. This is not the
So,
bike path. And I
we
have
are-
spoken to those neighbors, by the way. But these properties are not the bike path.
That's why I
This
wanted-
is High Street.
This is why I want to clarify, we're talking about the property itself or the street?
So it's basically what we're looking to do with this right now is, it's all about this, the first acquisition grant is about acquiring or growing open space here in the community and preserving them. So these properties have access to the Blackstone River, and our hopes are, it's important to stress that even if funded, this is just exploratory at this point. What we had to do before we could even submit, what we need to do before we submit a proposal is meet with the property owners to say, should the DEM decide that this is a viable project, are they open to having a conversation with the Natural Heritage Preservation Commission to possibly purchase a small parcel of their land, which total, we're looking at, it's about $118,000 worth of fee, if we were to purchase all three properties.
130
$118,000.
for city money?
No, that's why, we have to leverage, it's a 50% match, but the 50% that comes directly from the DEM. It's also important to stress that we may potentially be able to use in-kind support to meet that.
So for me, I'm talking about D, E, and F, because I think they're all related. In the packet, it came all together.
Yep.
So just as context.
So it's three specific projects. So as you know, obviously, the Rhode Island DEM has been very supportive of the community, including Veterans Park, which has been mentioned many times today. They invested hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in this project. In order for us to now go through with these, other three projects, one being the acquisition grant, which is for the extension of the Blackstone walkway. The large grant, and the one that we feel is the most pressing need, obviously, is Maycomber Field, in which we're asking $300,000, which is the max from the DEM. It's also important to stress that before, obviously, we submit any proposals, we meet it internally as a team, but we also have a frank conversation with the Rhode Island DEM as partners of ours to let them know about this proposal, pick their brain a little bit before we move forward. This is a high priority project, and they understand the need for it. Clearly, with, as we've talked about, a community that only has 3% green space, we're talking about, you know, one of the two significant recreational fields that we have here that is supporting all of the schools, charter and public, as well as recreational leagues, football leagues. If this field goes down, which is about to happen, we're all going to be in trouble, especially with not having, as you know, a community center. We need to be able to provide these helpful opportunities for our community, especially for youth. And then the Rhode Island, the third grant, which is the River Island Campground, which is a small grant, according to them, so we can ask for up to $100,000. We're looking into continuing the investment in the space at about $125,000 to continue to beautify this space, including, as well as to encourage more and more people to actually take advantage of it, especially, once again, the community where many of our residents are not getting exposure to the natural environment. And, you know, it's also great as far as STEM programming, being able to contextualize what they're doing in the classroom. So these are great opportunities for us. You know, and once again, I just like to stress how supportive around DEM has been of this community, the fact that we've really talked to them quite extensively about these projects, and there's obviously significant need and buy-in from them.
So, my hiccups come because this is a huge project, right? That 300,000 at Maycomber, that's not gonna get us a turf field. So it's like, for me looking at this, I need more information for each parcel of land. What exactly is the long-term plan for it, right? You want to invest $300,000 from DN, from Maycomber. What's the city putting into that, to the stadium, to renovate it? And then how are we going to upkeep it? We charge people nothing. We don't charge our schools anything to use the field. So if we're going to have rodeos, if we're going to have soccer games and baseball games, how, as a city, are we maintaining these properties? Because for me, 300,000 is not doing it. It's the little stamp at Maycomber. So how is the city gonna make up all those funds? So for me, I see a lot of outdoor space. I know we only have 3% green space, but in terms of a community center, we have 0% space. And that's something that's utilized year long. For when we're making all these proposals, I just need more information. Like, how is it gonna be maintained? The city likes to put out all these great projects, and then we don't maintain it. So how, for me, I want to know how we're going to maintain these properties for years to come.
Right. So what this resolution does right now is it allows us to actually even submit a proposal that will get funded at $300,000 in support of Maycomber, a field that, as you know, Rhode Island DEM has already done a study of and is contaminated and is going to need remediation one way or the other. So as far as...
Could you repeat that again?
What's that?
What did you say?
I apologize, I spoke up. So we know that there is contamination around Maycomber Field. There has been an initial report done by the Rhode Island DEM. So one way or the other.
Do we have a report on that?
They have not done a formal report yet. It's only an initial report in which they noticed that there's contamination, not so much on the field, but surrounding the field.
Is that the reason why the field is not allowed to be used?
It's the reason that the field will not be able to be used, yes.
We have a contaminated field?
So let me...
Please.
So there was testing around the field. DEM has stated that those areas are to be not to be used. The field can still be used at this point. We've had a meeting with our local coaches, with the high school, charter schools, rec leagues, youth leagues, etc., explaining the situation that occurred and leaving the option up to them. Some organizations have decided not to use the field. Some organizations have decided to continue to use the field. There has been no directive to not use the field. But what directive there has been that we will now go ahead and test the whole field to see exactly what we're working with and what the scenario is. Either way, whether it's art remediation, which is fixing the small pockets where there's possible contamination, or redoing the whole field, we need to start working towards some funding to be able to have that. And these recreation grants are very specific and particular. Some are for acquisition, some are for small projects, some are for large projects. And as Derek had mentioned, we asked DEM, what are the type of projects that you would fund? and they're very particular about what projects they fund. So although we have a variety of ideas as to different projects that we might want, we have to conform with what DEM is also informing us that they're looking for. And one of the things that they're looking for is specifically the Maycomber project, considering the situation that we're in. And I know you're right that we do have, it might be more costly than the $300,000, but we have to get those results and see what type of remediation efforts we're going to be looking at. Another thing that I think is important to mention is that we have, in terms of maintenance and charging, the Parks and Rec Director is going to be proposing a new fee structure to the council at budget time. It's something that he and I have had several conversations about. Yes, schools, we do not charge schools or churches. Rodeos, any private events, absolutely we charge. But what we have on our books right now is $30 for the day, which is not really appropriate depending on the different types of events that happen. And we are looking to change that. But it's going to be a comprehensive change. And I would encourage you to reach out to Rob because he's doing a lot of work in that regards, looking at what other communities do and trying to, find something that is fair, but also we can use money towards the maintenance of the field. Because yes, maintenance of our fields has been an area where we've been slacking, and we've made improvements. As you know, we brought on another part-time seasonal recreation worker to help with the upkeep of some of our parks. But the fee structure is going to be rescaled, and these projects are not projects that we just thought of out of nowhere. There's something that we've consulted with planning, Parks and Rec, our grant writer, and DEM about what sort of projects they're looking to fund. So I just want everyone to know there was a lot of thought and effort and a lot of hours put into thinking about these projects. So.
And I'd just like to chime in very quickly. With the endorsement of the DEM, as well as an investment of $300,000, where they're saying they're on the hook for $300,000, if there are additional monies, if this project, the budget grows more significantly, first of all, we can have an open conversation with the DEM if we have to revamp things, but it also allows us to secure additional, leverage their investment to bring in additional funders, such as like the Champlin Foundation, for example, which is the most significant capital funder in the state. And
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Rozier?
Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned hearing of the contamination on Maycomber. I've heard rumors about possibly not utilizing the field because there was a problem with it. I did not know there was a contamination. As a council, may I request that documentation or the report on the condition of the field be provided to the members of the city council before we are addressing any action on property. We have to determine what exactly is the problem with the problem. How much is it going to cost for the city to correct it? What is an allowable grant to be provided? Are there any other extenuating circumstances that could create a negative effect with the property? I think this information needs to get done prior to us. I mean, we can look into various grants, but if we don't know how deep the problem goes, then we may not want to act as hastily on items before we get a full understanding of the problem. Mr. Chairman, I do request a copy of this information.
Yes, we can provide that. What I'd also like to say is that this type of resolution is something that's fairly common, or not fairly, extremely common, and is a necessary part of any application. Extremely common, a necessary part of any application that we would submit. So the application is not done yet. This is something that I've come in front of the council, not this council, but council back in 2013 when we were applying for those recreation grants for example, to make Veterans Park. And the applications are not necessarily written at this time, but this is one of the pieces that needs to be included in an application. So,
and it's important to stress that that application is due December 1st. I really feel very strongly we should submit the proposal, and then for some reason, if we decide, hey, we do not want to accept $300,000 for this project, we can do that.
I'd like the city solicitor would like to add, please.
I just wanted to answer a few of Councilman Lozea's questions. I have digital copies of the DEM report, and I can forward those to the members of the council. I can do that tonight. What those reports will show you is that as part of this application process, there were a couple of sites that they drilled a small hole into, and they found chemical elements that are common in urban communities, especially industrial urban communities. I spoke to Barbara Morin, who's an environmental toxicologist at the Department of Health, after receiving the report, to figure out, before talking to coaches in the community, what exactly was in the soil and what dangers are there, if any, for city workers or for coaches or for athletes or for someone walking their dog. What she said was, if you did the same exact test on any playing field in a Rhode Island urban area, you're going to have the same test. There's going to be arsenic. It's a natural occurring element in Rhode Island. You're going to have lead because leaded gasoline, especially if it's along the road. And she said specifically, there's no reason to stop recreational activity at Maycomber. We, out of an abundance of caution, are letting everyone know about it so they can make their own decision. And because it's important, public health is important. That was phase one. What is happening now is now that we know about it, we got to do something about it. So now that we know about it, phase one, we have to do phase two, which has a public notice component, public hearings, community notification. So every abutter, every renter, every property owner around Maycomber will get noticed. There'll be community meetings. It has to be done in the language of the community, so it'll be done in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And that will be phase two. I would suspect, having read a lot of this material that I'm going to forward to you, that there is, not just in that one site or two sites, but there's some level of those elements being in other parts of the field, because it used to be a metals factory 100 years ago. And so if that's true, the city is under an obligation from both the DEM and the EPA to remediate it. And the city's capital fund may not have the resources to do that. DEM has one-time money this year to assist communities to solve these problems. And if the city were able to get this money, it could leverage EPA money and money from the NBC, which is doing green infrastructure up the Blackstone Valley, to create enough big of a, Councilwoman Fonseca raised a good point, it's probably going to take more money than the $300,000, and this can leverage the federal funds necessary to actually rebuild the field. So this will definitely be a multi-year process. We're only in phase one of it, but the short-term pot of state money is due December 1st, and that's what this resolution is about.
Councilman?
Yeah, listening to the explanation of the city solution, I would like to make a resolution to support the application for the DEM Aurora Recreation Plan.
Second. That motion by Councilman Simon, second by Councilman Acosta. Any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Lozere.
I am not in opposition to applying for money. That's something Central Falls is necessary. But what I'm concerned about is the information and the knowledge of what's going on. I'm very happy to receive the documents you're going to send, but we still have not contacted the abutting property owners. So you've mentioned the Blackstone Valley LLC, which is the owner of one parcel.
No, they've signed off.
Have all the property owners have signed off?
That's actually, I have copies of them signed.
Okay, that's what you mentioned, you were going to be contacting them to sign off in the future.
No, they've signed off to say that they are willing to have that exploratory conversation in the future.
And that is for the first grant?
Yes, it is.
There's three separate grants, so those sign-offs were for the first grant, the acquisition grant.
And this resolution is for,
It's for all three. It's for the acquisition.
it's
and
for
then
the second parcel, it's for the second part of the process, or was it just for the first?
The resolution allows us to submit a proposal.
And that's the second part, second procedure, correct?
The resolution allows the city to ask for the money. It doesn't bind the city to accepting money or bind the city to anything above and beyond other than the application.
Councilwoman?
Yeah, so I have one question for you guys and then one question for us. So what happens after the resolution gets passed? When will we hear about this again as a council?
Well, then we need to submit the proposal, obviously, by 12/1, and then they have a turnaround time of, most likely, we would hear if we're awarded about March.
And how would you guys, where's the council fit into that discussion?
I expect that it will be included in the Department of Parks and Recreation and the Department of Planning and Economic Development's annual report to the council.
All right, so for me, this is for the council, for me, when we take on projects like this, I think last meeting and the meeting before, this year, a few months ago, we approved the soccer field on High Street, right? So we're for the grant, the same thing, a resolution supporting the soccer field on 1304 High Street. So we have that. We have this Vets Park now. We have the Crossland Park. And these are great projects, but I'm thinking about the long term of it, right? So now we want to invest in the Little League Park, in Maycomber, in the River Island. Who's going to maintain all these properties? Who's going to oversee them on a day-to-day basis? We're not increasing our staff load for the city. You
We
see
increased
what?
our staff,
Okay, assistant parks, but
Yes.
parks and recs.
right,
Yeah,
to focus solely on parks.
Okay. So
Part-time.
one person cannot do that job, like point blank period. Not even 2 or 3 people can do it well. To maintain all those properties year long round, that's a project in itself. So we're talking about money. The council, the money goes through us. They're saying that they're not coming back to the council to talk anything about money with us. So when that 60,000 takes place, because we have to split the 118, so 60,000, where's that coming from, right? When we approved the budget for this year, we approved it knowing where all the money was going to. It was allocated towards something. So for us making these decisions without a program plan, without funding to see how much it's gonna cost, you said the results, we're getting the results back from the Maycomber test, right? We don't even have that to know how much it will cost. If it might be 400,000, right? So for us to prematurely make that decision as a council, I think it's irresponsible of us, knowing that as a city, we're already short-staffed in general, and we don't have no program plan, we don't have no funding from the city that's letting us know what's gonna happen to these projects, to these parks, right? Like, what's gonna happen? If somebody can answer my question, then.
I think from Councilman, from the legal perspective, the decisions that sports teams have made to not play at Maycomber and the timeline that we're on with 1304 High Street in terms of turning that into an adequate recognized soccer field that youth leagues can play on. There may come a time where we don't actually have any fields that anyone can play on. The timeline won't work in terms of remediating Maycomber and building 1304. And so there'd actually be a reduction in the number of fields in the city for quite some time if Maycomber isn't figured out in the short term.
And then what's going on with Higginson? So where are we gonna put the turf field? Is the turf field going to Maycomber or is it going to Higginson? Because that's how you really maintain the property. You're gonna have the football teams, all the football teams play, all the soccer teams. Which field are we putting the turf in? We don't even know where the turf is gonna go. That's how you maintain fields, is with turf. And turf is $1 million+ project.
Sure. So, Councilman, you had stated that it would be, I just wanted to see if I'm getting it correctly. It's irresponsible to apply for the $300,000 not knowing what amount of money we are going to need to invest?
Yep, just like 115 Illinois, and just like the War Veterans Park, right? We received all these grants.
If the field is contaminated, we are going to be obligated to fixing the field regardless of what the cost is.
And I understand that. We should get those results in before we pass this resolution. How quick does it take for those results to come in?
It takes a while, unfortunately.
Yeah, and as the city solicitor just pointed out, this just allows us to submit a proposal. We do not need to take the money. However, if we do not submit this proposal by December 1st, we just lost $300,000.
But you guys aren't coming back to the council to say, we need $200,000. You guys are just gonna move that money around on your own and do it on your own. You're not coming back to the council for that.
I don't move any money, so
No,
I'm
not
saying,
you,
I'm
but
just
the
saying
city.
that you're gonna lose $300,000, so that's my point.
And, or what, we might lose $1.3 million, you know?
I don't actually understand.
In terms of if it costs $1.6 million, where are we gonna get the $1.3 million from? I know you talk about these grants and all this, but that's,
Once again, it's just, I'm really confused because one way or the other, we're gonna need to address Maycomber. This is a project that they're saying they will invest $300,000 into this. We're gonna need money one way or the other. Even if you decide, hey, we don't wanna spend this $300,000, it's not stipulated that we need to touch the money. This just allows us to submit a proposal that can bring in $300,000 for the betterment of our community.
so just skip to
And we-
Maycomber and
And we
wait
need
for
to
the other ones.
remediate the problem that is in Maycomber anyway, so it's an
And
application.
hey, I'm 100% for it. I work for the school, so I know my kids are dying to play on that field, and they should be playing on that field. But I want to make sure that we're doing it the right way. That's all I'm saying. I want to make sure we're doing it the right way.
I'm just confused as to what the right way is. We have an opportunity to possibly secure $300,000 to put towards that project to sort of lessen the burden on taxpayers. And so you're right, we don't know what the final amount is going to be, but I don't
But
understand.
what's your plan for Maycomber? That's what I'm asking. What do you plan to do for
I think we need to
Maycomber?
find out what the results are. If it's
Okay, but
stop-
beyond
so-
the results, we know it needs to be fixed, right? It needs to be, or whatever, it needs to be
Remediated,
fixed. So what else beyond that?
So I think we
Are
need
we
to
gonna
take
do,
it.
are we working on the bleachers?
Well,
Are
I
we
think we need to
working
go
on the
step by
grass?
step. So the most immediate cause for concern is what level of remediation needs to be done. They're gonna do this testing of different spots all over the field. It could be 10-foot spots, and there's 3 spots that are contaminated, and we just focus on those. And if we do, then we have extra money where we can ask DEM, can we use this money for other improvements around the field? If not, if it's, cost $1 million, then we have $300,000 that we can put towards that project. I just don't see why we lose this opportunity to put $300,000 towards
It's not,
the
I
project.
just feel like the city can give us more information. Like, the results, that's not something that we can control, but we can control our vision of Maycomber. What's our vision of Maycomber? You guys haven't said anything about what Maycomber is gonna look like or feel like or anything.
I think
And
that's part of
that's
our.
something that we control.
Well, I think that is part of a conversation with our recreation director and also part of our comp plan, what we want our recreation spaces to look like. And so, although I don't have an answer to what the future of every single park is, I know that Maycomber is one that I think, we need right now because we have 2 recreational spaces that can accommodate high school teams. One, which is Higginson, that is iffy depending on the condition of the field. So it's one that we're going to need in the short term. And so regardless of what our long term is, and I hear you asking about long term, and I think that's more inclined for our recreation department to bring in and talk about long-term planning as well as our comp plan, which there's going to be a presentation hopefully at the next council meeting, where we can talk about those long-term things. But this is an immediate issue that we have to figure out. And so I just don't want to, there's an
So
opportunity.
the long-term vision is to have high school sports at Maycomber, not Higginson.
I think it's a conversation that needs to be planned out a little, that I wouldn't want to make a decision right here. I think our comp plan will help us figure out what recreation spaces we have. I don't think anybody likes having a high school soccer field right next to the prison.
So why
To be
can't
blunt, but I'm
they
thinking-
play, why can't they
I'm-
practice at Higginson? Why can't they practice at Higginson? Play at Higginson.
Why can't they play at Higginson? It's occasionally been deemed unplayable by refs.
Is it cheaper to fix Higginson than Maycomber?
I'm not sure yet.
I would just add that I think it's 2 different buckets. Bucket 1 is if there's a contamination on Maycomber, we have, as a city, are legally obligated to clean it up.
Is there a time period for that?
DEM has a set time period, I can get that information for you. Typically what it involves is taking some amount of the soil, so maybe 2 feet of the soil down, laying a layer of rock and cloth and mesh so that the toxins don't bubble up, and then putting 2 feet of new soil down. And so doing that, it sort of step one. Step two is the larger vision of what do you put on top of that? Do you put turf? Do you put grass? Do you put bleachers? Who plays there? How do they play there? But it could very well be that no one plays there. If we can't, we don't have the funds to remediate it. And so this just speaks to that first step of, we know we probably have to go 2 feet down. We know we have to pay for it, and how do we find other partners to help pay for it so that the city taxpayer knows help?
Okay, at this time, we're faced with a resolution before us, and the plus side is, if we don't pass it tonight and we miss the December 3rd deadline, we have nothing. The other side of it is, if we reject it, if we approve of it, and for some reason, it looks like we're not going to meet our goal of all the improvements, as Derek said, at the time in March, we could say we don't want it. So we have nothing to lose here tonight by passing this resolution. December 3rd is right around the corner. Shame on us if we lose out on this. And not because Derek's here, but he has done wonders since he's been here. Millions of dollars have come forth to this city through Derek's efforts and all the grants he's written. And the proof, there's so much proof. I mean, look at Crossman Street Playground, look at Veterans Park, and the list goes on and on. To me, it's a no-lose situation here tonight by passing it. Again, shame on us if December 3rd goes by and we don't get this grant. And if in fact we get the grant and we go up a dead end, it's not going to be enough, then we can refuse the grant as I see it.
The city grant, not us.
We are part of the city. They are part of the city.
Mr. President, adding up what you said about Mr. Derek, he have done a great job for the city. Have taken a lot of money and a lot of good stuff thing happening here in the city for the great job he have done. So thank you for that.
So we have a motion by Councilman Solano. Did we get a second, Madam Clerk?
We did, Mr. President.
There you go.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. We have a resolution in the second, so I think we should pass this, go back and forth.
I totally
I have a
agree.
question, Mr. Chairman.
Under discussion.
Under discussion, Mr.
Okay, go ahead.
Chairman. I understand and I appreciate Councilwoman's concerns. This is just part of the problem of getting the agenda without the proper information or not getting the information prior to the meeting or holding additional workshops on problems. This is the first time I've heard that we have a problem at Maker Road. That's something we should address. The long-term plans for the fields is something that we should address, not waiting next year, but addressing it and hearing discussions now. There's a deadline for December 1st. We have the entire month to decide this. We could act on it tonight, or we could act on it prior to, we were supposedly discussing a meeting prior to December 1st. These are, because we only meet once a month, doesn't mean we shouldn't be getting information all the time. And having meetings when we need to discuss problems or concerns or long-term decisions that we may need to act on. The financial problems that the city has is we want to maximize as much money applying for grants as we can to initiate the problem and to correct the problem, remediation. But what does that mean long-term? If we're going to apply for 300, then what does that trigger with the city in the next step? How much is it going to cost us, and what do we need to do? These are discussions that we need to make. I think we should take action at some point. Do we need to take it tonight? I don't know. Do we need to discuss this further on the entire parcel of recreational space in the long term? Yes, we need to discuss that now. We need to discuss that next week, 2 weeks, within the month.
But this is something, when there's something that is being presented to the council, we need documentation and
Okay, Tom, we've
information
heard this
prior.
before, Tom, we have a
And I'm
motion.
addressing it now, Bob.
If you're not happy, vote no.
No,
Roll-
but it's about, we're still in a discussion. It's about information, right? It's about information.
Could you ask to be recognized?
Council President?
Okay. Tom, are you done?
It's about information. As a council, we're left out of the loop a lot of times, a lot of discussion. I know about the fields because I work in the schools, I know he can play. Mr. Lizette, his first night hearing about the field and then expected to pass this resolution, I'm willing to come for the fourth Monday to have a separate conversation just about this, because I don't know what you saw in our packets, but we got this. This has nothing to do with the resolutions that are.
That's my ordinance.
Okay, so let me show you what we got. We got this, a resolution, that's it, for each
Which
three
has been
things.
provided to the council in the
And it
past,
has no-
and we
it
would
has no
anticipate,
information,
I would,
Josh. It
council
has no
members, I would
information.
ask,
There's
let me,
no map, there's not even,
I hear
there's
you.
no location to
What I would
show you
ask,
where the
council
field
members,
is.
what I would ask is that when you receive your packets, should you have questions, we are only a phone call away. And so many of you, when you have, some of you, you look at your packet and there's an item that you have questions about or are unsure about, or would say, you know what, I'd like to have a map at the council meeting. If you mention it to us, we are more than happy, but to present every possible scenario and answer questions on every possible scenario is a little bit difficult.
It's basic information that we're missing in
This
the
is what-
packet.
this is a-
In the packet, and as a council person, I have every right to ask all my questions in public. I don't have
absolutely.
to ask no questions a week before, or 2 weeks ahead. I'm asking them right now so the public is hearing
That is completely
my
okay as well.
information. So for you to say, oh, you can ask before, I don't think that's right.
It just seems like when we have these council meetings, a lot of questions are coming up as if no one has read the packet.
No, it's coming up because we don't have any information. That's the only reason. We don't have any information. There's no plan, there's no map, there's no funding. There's nothing else but that resolution right here. That's it. And for me, that's not enough information.
To a grant that we are applying for.
Exactly. You could have included the application for the grant that we're applying for. Like, nothing was included in it, in the packet. That's all I'm saying.
We've applied for this grant in the past, and normally this is something that most councils are extremely supportive of. And so they didn't think that it was going to be.
And I've been extremely supportive of a lot of city projects, and I've seen it be increased. That park was supposed to cost a lot less than it cost. 115 Illinois is supposed to cost a lot less. So me, as a council person, my priority is a community center, and I think everybody knows that. So when you're coming up with all these community projects, even this greening space, residents didn't say that they want all this extra green stuff. We should ask residents what they want. I think if you ask them if they wanted all the green space versus a community center, they would tell you they wanted a community center.
Charlie?
But this funding opportunity just does not support a community center.
I understand, but you mentioned Chaplin and all those stuff. Those are sources that we're trying to go after.
And actually, the city solicitor brought up some other mechanisms which would make more sense. Now, we can definitely leverage this for and stay away from Chaplin, which is totally fine, obviously. Just an example.
So, if I'm following the logic, it seems like there are 3 issues at play when there seemingly should be one. The vote on a resolution supporting a grant.
Right.
There are people concerned with plans, including financial ones for the long term. And then there are people upset at finding out about the field being contaminated. I hear all 3. I don't think we're here right now discussing all 3. Now, in my defense, and I'm not here to pontificate, but I was the first person to call Josh when I found out and chew his ass out that we didn't know about the field. I didn't need to do that in a public forum, and I didn't need to make a big deal when we vote on something else. Now, if we approve this, and the city were to spend money that wasn't grant related, we would have to approve that. So we would see that. Yes, we would. All right, look, the announcement is made in March. It's presented in April. If the city was gonna spend money, it would have to be approved for the next budget, because we wouldn't have the money by then. And so again, if you have an issue, take the issue up later. This is about the grant. I understand these other things. I was there too, when I voted on that. So if you have an issue with something else, deal with that. But like, putting on a show to pump your chest out is a waste of all our time.
Vote. With that, roll call vote.
Councilman Ferry,
Yes.
Councilman Acosta,
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fonseca,
No.
Councilman Lozay.
So once he's speechless.
Yes. On the green.
Councilman Solano.
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item is the next resolution. Oh, for
Mr.
that
Chairman,
vote.
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Chairman, there was a single vote, correct? So we need to do the other resolutions. Mr. Almighty.
Yeah.
So the next agenda.
You want a break, Tom?
Mr. Chairman, not a break, I just want to reiterate that the information that was requested is still necessary to be provided. If there is an additional council meeting that is necessary, then we should have an additional council meeting. This is information, and it's just not on this topic, but on anything that comes before the council, that we get all the information. I like to read. I don't mind getting pages and pages of information provided to me to give me a better understanding of what we're acting on. So this, these facts should be followed up on, Mr. Chairman.
Next item.
It's the resolution to support the City of Central Falls application for the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management outdoor recreation grant.
Mr. Chairman, did we act on all of the three resolutions?
No, we just acted on
We just
one.
acted on one.
To make some
If there's a motion, we acted on the first one.
Right.
I move to table this to the fourth Monday, pending we get a program plan and more funding, any funding plans.
We have a motion. And what's the letter on that resolution? E. On the floor of the table, we have a motion and
I'll
a
second it
second.
for discussion,
to
Mr.
table.
Chairman. I'm not sure what the question is.
Councilwoman Fonseca would like to table a resolution in support of the City of Central Falls application to the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Outdoor Recreation.
Which is which one, Mr. Chairman? Maycomber Field?
the Maycomber Field.
Yes, it
The
is.
second one is Maycomber. So we passed High Street,
Yes.
and
Right.
so the action taken right now is on Maycomber Field.
Right, High Street delivery. Right.
Motion to table.
We have a motion to table. We have a second. Any discussion?
This would
Oh,
still be,
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, this would still be within the time frame to submit the frame, the grant, but I think it'll give us more information, long-term planning, and that, seeing the application would be nice.
If I may, I just want to
Sorry.
mention that most of the information that you're probably looking for, which is the cost of what the remediation efforts are going to be, you won't have until most likely February. So if you're looking for that, at least that portion of it, that's not going to be made available.
That's not what I'm asking for, the long-term plan for
Mr.
Maycomber,
President,
and with, the soil, how you were describing it, right? If we just looked at the whole place, and the whole place needs to be soiled, we could price it out, right?
That's the second bucket. The first bucket is we have a process and a public notice, a public meeting process to understanding what's going on with it. And if there is something, it has to be taken away regardless of what the long-term plan is. So whether you want to, whatever you want to put on top of it, everything below it needs to be carted away and disposed of. And there's only certain pots of money in government that can pay for that stuff.
So could we get a quote? So that if the whole field was like that, was contaminated like that, could we possibly get a quote?
From my understanding, it's between $300,000 and $500,000 if it's that, 18-inch, take it away, throw it down, do so. And this would go a long way to cover most of the problem.
Franklin?
yeah. Mr. President, Councilman Garcia and also Councilwoman Fonseca has requested more information about anything that we want to discuss here, and I agree with that. But now the point is to make the resolution to support the application for remote business. And I think we should approve that and get the paper that we need in every other meeting, the information that being requested by Councilman Garcia, which I agree, and Councilman Fonseca. Anyone else? Roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Roll call vote on.
Councilman
on
Perry?
tabling. No.
Councilman Acosta?
No.
Councilman Figueroa?
No.
Councilwoman Fonseca?
Yes.
Councilman Lozay?
yes.
Councilman Solano?
No.
Motion failed, Mr. President.
Motion to approve the resolution in support of the Central Falls City Council application of Rhode Island Department of Environmental Outdoor Recreation
We have a
Grant.
motion by Councilman Acosta, seconded by Councilman Solano regarding the Department of Environmental Outdoor Recreation Grant. Any discussion? Hearing none. Seeing-
I would just add, we did receive an email a few minutes ago from the city solicitor, and I understand, at least from the graphic, why it is quite unclear if it's the whole field or just part of the field. They took 3 samples from the High Street ball field, but they only took 1 sample from Maycomber, which is outside of where the football/soccer/baseball field is located. So it is relatively unclear how much we would have to redo.
How much contamination?
Roll call.
Yes.
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes?
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fonseca?
No.
Councilman Lozay?
Not at this time.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President.
Thank you. And the final resolutions?
Resolution in support of City of Central Falls application to Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management Small Recreation Grant.
Motion to approve is read.
We have a motion by Councilman Acosta, seconded by Councilman Solano and Councilman Figueroa. Discussion. This is the island,
Yes, yes.
River Island, yes. Everyone's familiar?
Mr. Chairman, can we, the exact work that's being applied for the River Island?
I have a proposed budget.
So it is basically to revise the River Island campground. It's a campground that many Boy Scouts have worked on over the past few years to turn into basically what's considered an urban campground. There's some issues there. There's a tremendous amount of poison ivy that's there. There's paths that need to be delineated. There's campsites that aren't, there's technically 2 campsites, but you can't really see them because of a variety of issues. They need to be leveled. And so the bulk of the money would go to the poison ivy removal, the campground leveling and installation, and some probably safe access to the water, because there obviously is access to the water, but having a designated area to the water, and if approved, hopefully some sort of ropes course or some sort of amenity that would bring campers there, some extra amenity that would bring campers there.
And what's nice about this grant, just so you know, is that the match, which is 20%, you can ask for 100 matches, 20% is the same as large, can be in-kind support. So we can use the staffing dollars that go towards this thing, upkeep costs, so it shouldn't even cost the city anything to get $100,000.
How much?
100,000.
I'll vote for the mosquitoes.
For the what?
Mr. Chairman,
Mosquitoes. Yeah.
I know we have a motion and a second. I'm glad you have the information on each of these projects. Could you send us a description of each of the projects? It would have been helpful prior to this meeting.
We can do that, and do that tomorrow.
Okay, to my proper email address, please. My proper email
I'm going
address.
to send it to the
I'm
city email.
requesting it to be sent to my
Understood.
proper email address,
Understood.
my personal email. I'm requesting it publicly
Understood.
Roll call vote.
according to
Councilman Ferry?
rules and
Yes.
regulations.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fonseca?
No.
Councilman Lozay?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next item, please. Thank you. And again, Derek, tremendous work you've done since you've been here.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
We have no resolutions of condolences and congratulations at the moment, Mr.
Oh,
President.
okay.
We're now moving to item E7. We're back to new business, yes. Consideration of waiver of special use permit fees for welcome sign at Whittier Higgins Company at 33 Peterson Avenue. And on your, at your seat is a memo that was provided to us by Mr. Friedrichs, Director of Planning and Economic Development, that explains the request. He's also here to answer your questions if you need it.
Peter?
Yes.
Good evening, thank you for your patience. I assume this is the expansion of the company that makes paper goods, I believe, or bags, or, yeah.
They make ball bearings.
Okay, but they're expanding, they're there in it. Is that the one with the big project expanding?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
So they're currently considering a major expansion
Right.
of their operations
Right.
on Higginson Avenue.
What are they trying to do?
What is the matter before the
Yeah.
council this evening?
Like, I didn't understand this.
So, yes, they are interested in constructing a new sign for their facility. They have a sign that is several decades old and has the old movie theater style signage where you put the block lettering up on a white background. They would like to move to an electronic sign. The Central Falls zoning ordinance requires that a sign with electronic movable type secure a special use permit from the zoning board of review. And they would like to apply for that application, but are concerned about the cost. And they, through their negotiations with the city on their tax stabilization agreement for their expansion, this would be considered, but they haven't yet filed that application. So the only body that can grant the fee waiver at this moment in time is the city council, which is why this matters in front of the council this evening.
Mr. Chairman, as a councilman in that ward, I first make the motion to grant the waiver of special use permit for further discussion.
Second. We have a motion by Councilman Azar, seconded by Councilman Pacheco and Councilman Solano.
Under discussion,
Under
Mr. Chairman.
discussion. Go ahead.
I'm very supportive of it. My only concern, or I should say criticism, is that months ago, many months ago, I requested the mayor, the departments, if there was anything that was going on affecting my ward, that as a courtesy, I be notified. I would have appreciated a courtesy notification prior to this. As other things, Crossman Street Park was never notified of it, wasn't even invited to the dedication ceremony. When things are going on in a particular ward, such as a grant application probably to Amazon, as a courtesy, the councilman in that ward should be briefed. At least getting an understanding of what the city is acting on. And I would request that again publicly to all the city departments, that if something is going on, that a councilman from that particular ward be briefed and informed of those actions. But I do support this request. I've known Woodard Higgins for many years, the owners. It is an excellent company, and the city should be cooperative in this request.
Anyone else? Discussion. Roll call vote?
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilwoman Fonseca?
Yes.
Councilman O'Dea?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President. Item F is consideration of tax abatements submitted by the city solicitor.
At the request of our city solicitor, that this item be tabled to the next council meeting. Looking for a motion to table. Motion by Councilman Pacheco to table, second by Councilman Azar. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Nays?
Can I ask the solicitor the reason why we are tabling it? Is there more information? I would like some additional information, but I don't have a problem tabling it.
I had intended on preparing a legal memo, and I realized I did not send that in advance to the council, and I want you to have time to look at that before we discuss it, which I will do before the next meeting.
Can I also request, if you're going to be providing further information on it, and I've requested this in the past, that anytime we get an abatement, we should look at how much we are abating each of the items. We are giving a general total abatement of $5,183.
I can provide that in a minute.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I was also gonna ask, for some of these, in the past, we've had the former assessed value, and being able to compare that to the newly assessed value, presumably that makes up the difference for the abatement, but this current table just has the new.
I can actually add 2 more columns, because there was another level of appeal involved here. I'll put all that in the memo, and make sure you have it for next meeting.
Next item.
Next item is City Council sitting as Board of License Commissioners. We have a consideration petition for license. We have 2 businesses. LRK LLC, Food Market at 355 Broad Street, and then La Herradura Taqueria Mexicana at 716 Dexter Street.
Okay, is the gentleman here?
Just from,
All right,
for
so, go ahead.
LRK. LRK, see that?
Say that again? Sorry.
LRK, right?
No, here for the La Colombiana, Barbara.
So you're next.
Get this next started.
Look for motion to table.
So moved.
The variety store, no one's here?
Yes, a comment. I think there was a lot of people here came for do some type of business here, and they left because the way we proceed with the meeting. I think in the future we should take those meetings up front.
Absolutely.
And
I
we don't
didn't
let it go like
realize,
that.
I didn't realize they were
And
here.
Mr. President, if I could,
I didn't realize they were here.
yes, they may have been here and left, and that's why I confused that gentleman. Both these businesses have done everything they could, and I would hate for us to delay their opening of their business. If you have any questions that I can answer on their application, I can.
Has everyone reviewed the application? That's that little variety store. I think it was a little gas station at one time, then it was a little donut shop.
Yes, and it's,
right near the bank on Broad Street, almost at the Pawtucket CF line. Between the bank and the
right next
CVS.
to Bank of America,
Yeah,
across
and
the
the
street
C-
from ABC Liquors.
Used to be the check cashing,
Right, exactly.
So the owners of this applicant used to run the convenience store that is now ABC Liquors, LRK. So they were, by ABC Liquors moving in, they had to vacate that property, and now they have a new property that they're renting, which is this business. So they've been a licensed business owner with the city for many years now.
Whatever happened to that check cashing?
I don't know.
Did they just leave? Do
They may have just.
businesses notify you when they leave, or?
Some do, majority do, some do not.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve, subject to approval of all license applications, for all permits, state, federal, local requirements. If they meet that, Mr. Chairman, then I wish to have the council approve it, subject to the city clerk's.
I think she just answered your question, correct? The city clerk did say.
I wanted to put it on the record, Mr. Chairman.
Did they submit the business or the business plan? For the new
Sorry.
business, do you have to submit a business plan?
No.
Mr. Chairman, I don't
Most
think
of
I
our
got a
businesses
second
have a
yet.
business plan.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Lizette to approve, subject to the conditions of all licenses, which I understand the city clerk said they have. Seconded by Councilman Acosta. Any further discussion? Hearing, Councilwoman Zika?
Do we know why they left that location?
ABC Liquors? They were evicted by ABC Liquors. ABC Liquors bought the building, there was the property owner. The gentleman that runs ABC Liquors is the property owner, LRK were tenants. So as ABC Liquors moved in, they had to leave. And in the past 3 months, they've been searching for a location, which they just now found.
And the check cashing left town. Roll call vote?
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca? Yes. Councilman Lozada?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President. Moving on to the advertised hearing and consideration of petition of alcoholic beverages, Class B.
What about the second? Yeah, the Class A. I wasn't at the October meeting, but it looks like they already were discussed. Is there a reason why we have to see them?
Which one is that?
The La Herradura Taqueria, the place that took over Budare Grill. I read over the notes and it said that they didn't hear last time.
They were approved for, you are correct, Councilman Acosta, they were approved for a liquor license as a transfer from Budare Grill on October 11th.
Yeah, that's good. So this is just the food?
This is just a food license.
Okay.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Lozada, second by Councilman Acosta and Councilman Solano to approve. Any discussion?
Is this included also on our general year renewals? City Clerk.
I did not because they don't have anything to renew because they haven't been granted yet.
So this is a new and so is that
Yes,
year.
correct.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote?
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca? Councilman Lozada?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, so the next one I had just read, I'll read it again. Advertised hearing and consideration of petition of alcoholic beverage Class B, victualling license for Rafael Luano, doing business as La Colombiana Bar and Grill at 477 Dexter Street.
Good evening. So this is your Ideal Cafe?
Yes, sir.
And your sign's already up?
Yes, sir.
It looks nice.
Thank you. Renovate the whole place, everything from the floor.
Has everyone had and read the application?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, go for it.
Chairman, could you give a,
Read that.
what changes are going to be made compared to the Ideal to your new establishment?
Sure, I do not know how the Ideal Cafe was
And tell me how you're going to run it.
in the past. Renovate the whole place, everything from the floor, it says the bar, put a new kitchen, new fire suppression system. Like I said, everything is going in new. I am a retired police officer, just retired in July. Like it wasn't enough of a headache, I decided to take up on the bar.
You was a police officer?
Yes, sir.
That's right.
I was going to say, did you buy the entire property? Do you rent upstairs as an apartment? Do you own next door?
No. I leased the bar area with the option to buy within 12 months.
Okay.
As soon as, if I get approved on a liquor license, I finish all the work that I have to do. I have to go to the code department to get all the permits, necessary permits for plumbing, electrical, and hopefully buy the whole corner there.
And your hours will be from 11 a.m.
11 a.m.
to 1?
To 1. To 1 a.m. Somehow the customers like the place.
My concern, okay, you got the bar, but you got that little parking area to the right?
Yes.
And there's a little apartments, I believe.
There are.
Yeah, and probably, I don't know if it is or isn't the responsibility of the bar owner, but it's quite the hangout there. I know there's stuff going on there, so drinking and the liquor, and I don't know what you can do, but I don't know how far your responsibility goes, but it's an area that's always, I don't think I can't explain it.
I'm aware
Are you aware of, yeah, you know what I mean?
Situation, and I'm working with the, I guess, some of the tenants
Oh,
up there
super.
on top of
Yeah,
the bar.
yeah.
They are being evicted, and they are the ones that usually do the drinking in the
Yeah,
corner.
and I mean, that's all hours of, I'm by there every day, and
Yes.
I can't believe what I'm seeing.
I spoke with the
It should be,
property owner, regarding that issue.
Mr. President.
Yes, Franco.
And I will say, I believe that Mr. Rafael Ruano, he must know how to deal with those situations, because as a former police officer in Aleboro, I believe he was, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else? Gentlemen?
All your permits and stuff we got, when are you planning to open?
It depends on, once the work gets done, then the inspection from the health department, and then the city has to inspect it, and I don't know, it's pending on them. I gotta finish the work, and once I get approved to be open, that's be determined by.
You expect prior to December 1st?
Right now, that's the, no, I don't think it'll be done.
Because the license period is from December 1st until November 30th. So if you open up prior, then you have to
Renew.
We
I'm aware of
could do that now. We could
Yeah,
do
it
that
definitely
now.
will have to be after, and I don't see open in this month. I'm looking maybe 15th of December. That's my goal date.
30 days, of course, just said. I get a kick out, you had your sail up before you built the boat. I saw the sign of the day.
Smart, man, good advertising.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to wish Mr. Ruano and good luck in his business here at Central Falls, and welcome to the city.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Do we have a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
That motion approved. Right, we had a motion.
Yeah, it was motion
This
to
is a-
last time, I believe there was.
Yes, we had a motion and 2 seconds. With that, roll.
Can I, can you revise those for me then, because I do not have them.
Was motion made by Colleen, second by Jonathan and Franklin.
Yes.
And then that was discussion. With that, roll call vote.
Mr. Chairman, on the motion, I would ask that the motion be for, if he does open up prior to December 1st, that he be granted a license, and this will also act as the renewal. Was he advertised for the license
Yeah.
starting December 1st?
He was advertised for a license.
Okay, then,
And he's got 30, it's good for, it's got 30 days. Sonia just explained it.
to pick up his license, Mr. Chairman.
And anyway, you're going to open up before December 1st, we already said it. So.
If he wants to, he could.
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca?
Yes.
Councilman Zay?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Welcome to the city, yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. So now we're up at the renewals.
Thank you for your patience. I didn't even know what you were here for up there earlier.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I know. So the revised one for the next week, Saturday's good. This one we'll see.
Thank you. You'll have a good night.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Which department were you in?
In Attleboro. Thank you.
And the next item.
So the next item is an advertised hearing consideration of 2017-2018 liquor license renewals. Mr. President, I would like your permission to add 2 businesses to the list that I sent you on last week. And that's the sheet that I put on your desk as additions. So for the ones that are there.
Whatever the council's pleasure is.
And
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the amendment to the list.
Have a motion to accept the amendment, seconded by Councilman Solano. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
And that's inclusive of both amendments.
correct, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question on the list.
Yes.
Madam City Clerk, I looked over, I did not see Stanley's Restaurant as a restaurant at license renewal. I only saw them as a liquor.
That's all they have listed. They have the B Limited.
So you combined their food into one license to be
Correct.
victualling.
Yes.
Okay. In some other instances, they've had two in the past.
Correct.
Other establishments
Yes.
had a separate restaurant
Correct.
license and a liquor license also.
Yes, and if you see on the additions, Darling Cyber Cafe is an example of one that has liquor and it has kept a separate restaurant.
Well, Stanley's doesn't have a separate restaurant.
Correct.
Matt, you got something?
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask, and the Colonel of Central Falls Police would also ask that item 3 on the list, American Colombian Liquors, be continued until either the last meeting in November or the first meeting in December. We conducted, actually no, this was not a pre-planned incident. This was a patrol officer recently filed a report alleging after-hours sales from this liquor store at 1 in the morning, and we would like time to present the proper paperwork to the council of what happened and present testimony to the council. We unfortunately didn't have enough time to get that information to you, but feel that it would weigh in on your decision to renew their license, especially in lieu of this happening previously at that establishment.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Are you looking to table that to when?
Either the last, I think we talked about if the council were to...
Prior to December 1st?
Yeah, at November 27th, I believe you may have a meeting on the comp plan. If you would consider at that point, the Colonel and I would be very appreciative.
Knowing that they have already applied for their renewal, if they are not renewed, then as of December 1st, the city council has no authority to take action on his license if he doesn't have one. I think in an abundance of caution, then if we do not, or possibly not have a meeting prior to December 1st, I would recommend to approve the license renewal subject to a hearing in December or at whatever date, because then the city council can take action to suspend or revoke at that time. I would, if they get their license prior, we're going to collect their license fee also. And that's $1,000, is it? $1,500. I would recommend that if we are going to take action on it, it'll be done while they have a license. And then, because if we take action to suspend, we do not give them an opportunity to appeal. So then, if we take action on November 27th, then they will not be granted, will suspend and possibly hypothesize that the council may not take any action and then grant him a license renewal, then where it's going to be suspended. It may be cleaner to take action after we renew it. My suggestion to the solicitor. I'm not sure what day they're going to have a meeting. They didn't say yet.
Okay, at this time, I think we should approve all licenses except the American Colombian. And also, I guess I have a question mark to the city clerk. Do we know anything about Lima's? Are they or are they not in operation?
They are in operation.
They are?
Yes, sir.
Who?
Lima's Place on High Street. We had the same problem last year. I just don't see any activity.
I was there on Saturday.
You were there Saturday?
I saw him, the room was set up for front seats. As he had described, I believe, the last time he was here, Mr. President, he's been doing mostly weekend openings, so Friday nights, Saturday nights.
You open anytime you want.
For businesses, do they have to have signs up? Is that required?
Which signs do you use?
Like a sign saying the business name?
No.
That's
Not
not
required, no.
So here's the good and the bad. If in fact he's not open and he has a license, the good, I guess, is that we don't have to worry about any problems. The bad is if he does not, in operation and someone's looking for a license, he's holding one. Which brings me to the total,
They applied, Mr. Chairman.
please?
They did submit an application
They
requesting.
paid for the renewals?
I'm not sure whether he's paid.
But they submitted.
But he submitted, and all the documents required for renewal have been submitted to my office.
Okay, but if there is a rule, you cannot be closed for more than, I believe, 60 days. We went over this before, but that's okay. The good is, if he has a license and he doesn't operate, he's not a problem. On the other hand, if he doesn't operate, he's actually holding a spot. That's someone that may or may not want a license in the future. Which brings us to the Class B. My current count is 22. And we have a maximum of 25. In a limited, we're at 7, and we have a maximum of 8. We're at our maximum for Class A, which is liquor stores. And we're at our maximum for a charter, for like a club like the Knights of Columbus at 2. So that's just a tidbit I throw out there. With that, if no one has any questions regarding...
Yeah, I'd like to comment and
Franklin?
say, I'm agree with Councilman Lasea about the liquor, the American Colombian liquor, to give the opportunity to renew it and give the opportunity to apply to appear, right?
Yeah, you can still have any hearing you want. We don't have a motion on this. I make a motion to approve collectively.
Second.
Sure, absolutely. City Solicitor wants to speak.
So the Colonel and I made the request to the council to not approve Colombian American Liquors because there is significant evidence that they continue to violate state law. If the council were to renew their license, we are losing legal leverage over the establishment. In other words, if we take action against them and they appeal it, they're going to appeal the renewal of the license, which is a different standard than renewing action on an existing license, which is a harder standard to meet at DPR. So if the council wants to leave its legal options open, it would, and I don't know where the evidence will take you. It could very well take you that you take no action. I leave that up to the members of the council. But if you wanted to leave open the door for a more significant punishment, then continuing it to the 27th will allow you to, the proverb, eat your, have your cake and eat it too. They'll allow you to either renew their license or discipline them. If you approve it tonight, then you're giving them their license and you may not be able to punish them in a way you could have on the 27th.
Mr. President? At this point, I would like to withdraw my second.
And Mr. Chairman, I will withdraw my motion to make another motion. I move that we approve collectively excluding American Colombian liquors for a hearing to be held prior to December 1st for determination if there is a show cause hearing why the license should not be suspended or revoked. And on the agenda would be the license renewal if the legal action does not take it to a suspension or a renewal.
Second.
And clerk, did you get all that?
So it has to be done before the first? City Solicitor?
Yes.
Right. Everyone understand the motion? We have a motion by Councilman Azier, seconded by Councilman Solano.
Under clarification, Mr. Chairman, discussion. I only do this because of the recommendation of the solicitor, but also they paid for an advertisement for their renewal. I do not want that advertising to be in jeopardy. This will protect your legal right to have your license acted on prior to December 1st. If the council doesn't take any further action, December 1st, they can get their license back.
Yeah, we understand that.
All right.
Roll call vote?
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca?
Yes.
Councilman Lozay?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President. And now we are doing, that was for the liquor licenses, we now have the license renewals. Those include some of the businesses that were above, on the above list, where they had licenses that may have been like entertainment or amusement licenses. So some of them are duplicate names.
I believe we already had a motion to add the business licenses, correct?
Correct.
Okay, with that, looking for a motion to approve all business licenses.
Collectively, as amended. Motion to approve collectively as amended.
A motion by Councilman Zia, seconded by Councilman Solano. Any further discussion or any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, sorry, John.
Just a quick question, I know there was some merged ones. Oh, never mind, I'm good.
Roll call vote?
Councilman Perry?
Yes.
Councilman Acosta?
Yes.
Councilman Figueroa?
Yes.
Councilman Fonseca?
Yes.
Councilman Lozay?
Yes.
Councilman Solano?
Yes.
Motion carries, Mr. President. Correspondence, there is none. And next is food and welfare.
At this point, Councilman Fonseca made a little note to have we should have a moment of silence for a Delvin Medina. He's a gentleman that unfortunately died after being hit by the automobile at the corner of Clay and Dexter Street. So a moment of silence for Mr. Medina. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Colleen, for pointing that out.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Lucia, we under good and welfare?
under the good and welfare, Mr. Chairman.
I hope this is good.
Mr. Chairman, I would request at the next meeting, the administration provide us with a report on the executive session that we held regarding property on Dexter Street. We were informed that that decision would have taken place by September 25th. We have heard nothing further on it. I request that we have a report from the administration on that. I also, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, I also requested placed on the agenda an opportunity to discuss the financial data either prior to the next meeting or at the next meeting on the city budget. I've also been requested.
We noted earlier, I think, in the meeting, that those two items, Tom. This is good and welfare.
Under the good and
It's not a
welfare.
recap of the meeting, it's good
A
and
lot of
welfare.
good and welfare, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
but because of the time, and I gotta go to
Okay.
condolence wake, I'll defer the rest until the next meeting.
Anyone else, good and welfare?
Welfare, well.
Under good and welfare, I can't express how happy I am at the events that happened on Saturday. The only thing I didn't cooperate was the weather. It was cold, and Colonel Mendonca mentioned to me, and he is right. He says, I think we can endure the cold for an hour or 2 hours when our veterans over years have endured the cold in battle even in peacetime, and he is absolutely correct. But again, thank you, everyone that attended, Lorraine, with everyone that was there. I thank you so much. It was a great event. It's a wonderful project, and the park can only get better with that. Thank you. Anyone else? Motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm
Before
sorry.
we adjourn, I just want to piggyback you on what you just said. It was a great event and great action for the city of Central Falls, and I'm very pleased to see that we are recognizing our men and women defending our freedom. It was great.
Thank you, Frank.
Councilman.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I also I sent you guys an email about, with the calendar for the Holiday Express events that are happening November through December. Holiday Express, they also, so Holiday Express does the Thanksgiving dinner, Thanksgiving baskets, they do, we give out 450 Thanksgiving baskets to families around the city. They do the Christmas decorating contest, the tree lighting, everything encompasses that, and the Christmas gifts in December. So the major is looking for raffles, so I told him I'd ask the council if anyone's interested in donating a raffle basket. You can choose whatever you want in it, but that's an opportunity for us to support as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan.
I just want to quickly want to shout out the city and us for having a city sergeant now. I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of our communication and getting people of different lifestyles, ages, social and political dispositions on the same page to be able to support the city. The second one, and she's noticeably absent today, is just shouting out Councilwoman Rivera for the amazing work that she's doing right now. For folks who don't know, and just so it's on the record, she is in her paternal homeland of Puerto Rico, giving back and supporting their disaster effort, which is why she's not here today. So thank you to her and to all the folks that helped put that together.
Well, I want to, I should have said this. I know you were tied with the school department, Colleen still is the young student, Lorraine, that sang the national anthem was just fantastic. And it's not the first time she donated her time and effort for the city. So, Lorraine, if you're listening, thank you so much, and everybody appreciates it.
I learned she was sick back.
Yes, she fought the cold, and it was cold. Looking for a motion to adjourn. We have a motion by Councilman Azir, Councilman Salam, and Councilman Figueroa, which is adjourned at 9:24.
I've been here so long.
Yeah.
We're still on one category, and everyone else gets split up.